This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning, and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. We've done some like nostalgia shows a little bit, like a couple of them just like kind of turned into that I wasn't planning on that. We had like a pretty healthy discussion with Charlie Hartley yesterday about his first experience frog fishing with the old Mans frog, which we pulled up, which I wasn't even aware of that. I always thought like the sumo frog, but I also like am buddies with Rojas. So I know that like Rojas got into it with the sumo frog, and then that transitioned into the Spro bronze eye frog later. And it's been, but like Charlie was like, no, check out this man. It's literally just like a lump of plastic with a couple like little tentacles sticking off the back. He said the hookup ratio. Anyway, then that transitioned into like the old round reels and then the original braid, and that all stemmed from how much I enjoyed talking with Jim Moyna last week, Minnesota legend, about the old FLW days and the Forestwood Cup invitationals back in the 90s. And then I started doing some spring cleaning, and I ran across like my big boxes of magazines, and in them, one of the big boxes had all of my old In-Fisherman magazines back. I mean, that was like the standard Christmas gift, was another year of In-Fisherman back when the internet was AOL and instant message, and you get up. But I would wait for that In-Fisherman magazine every single week. And then that reminded me that last year I was going to have Thomas Allen from In-Fisherman on the show to talk a lot about In-Fisherman and how that kind of intermixes with the tournament world. And I'd had some technical issues. So then I called up Thomas, and I was like, dude, I want to get you on the show this week. And he's got a bunch of stuff going on in the In-Fisherman world. And I said, dude, let's do it. And then I ran into him. I think it was at the Bassmaster Classic that I ran into. I think it was. There you go. Thomas, thanks for jumping on BTL. Was it the Bassmaster Classic where we ran into each other?
No, it was St. Jude's a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, dude. That's how crazy my schedule has been. The St. Jude Dick Hiley Bass Classic. And then you said, hey, let me shoot me your address. I want to send you something. And then the Richardson 112 In-Fisherman hat shows up. Look at this thing right here. There.
Retro. Brought it back. We've had a lot of demand for those things since they've come
and
out.
I've been wearing the heck out of this thing. And I was like, dude, it is time. Let's do the In-Fisherman show. Had Todd Seisner on, who also works at In-Fisherman. He was on at the Outdoor Brands team meeting last week. But what we basically did with Todd during that show, which is hilarious, is we opened up foil packs of bass fishing trading cards. But we did it. We did it like late night. So like he would open one and he'd be like, Mike Iaconelli, wacky worm shot. And then I would open one up and be like, Mark Zona square bill. Anyway, so that kind of divulged into that. But I want to know some history of In-Fisherman, how it relates to the tournament fishing world, what the casual fan thinks of this crazy bass fishing world, what's going on at In-Fisherman now, and all of the above. So you good for like 45 minutes to an hour of that?
I'm on the clock. I'm good as long as I need to be. So as long as you don't cut me off, in 10 minutes of blabbering, which feel free to do if I need to be cut off. But
no, blabbering's good on this show. That's less stuff I could say to get into trouble.
Well,
but
this, like you, I had a collection of magazines that I think my parents threw away when I wasn't paying attention, or would kind of cull off the top some of the older magazines, and I kind of wished I had them. But since I've been here, I've discovered an archive. There's a vault in the bottom of this building. If I was able to take you mobile, we could go there. And I have literally the original In-Fisherman magazine in mint condition. I think it would look pretty good on your shelf right there.
Oh my gosh. So that original, this is how big of a dork I am. So that original In-Fisherman magazine, I believe, came out in 1974.
Yes, ish. I don't remember the dates, but it's, dude, you look inside of that, and I mean, it was way before our time. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
It takes you back, and you look at what that created. There was a time, and I think we're kind of, I don't want to jump too far ahead here, but you look at the age of the the industry titans. We're starting to lose them. We lost Ron Linder here in 2020, and there's numbers of those older generation anglers that broke dirt in the fishing industry to educate and to share that with people and get them out fishing more. And to think that little old Brainerd, Minnesota was the headquarters for In-Fisherman for that long, and we're still here. It's pretty impressive. But if you want to talk inspiration, I see a lot of stuff on your wall. I have a man cave at my house that shares some similar things. There's stuff hanging on my wall there that doesn't mean anything to anybody but me, and that's why it's there. But I was born in Madison, Wisconsin, and in fourth grade we moved to Iowa. My dad kind of shifted his career from being a roofer and a construction guy into a sales rep for a roofing product, and that took us to Eastern Iowa. And I guess I've always had a flavor for the dramatics. You can kind of just things follow me around, and I was struggling with the new place to live and finding new friends, and I think for some reason, and Dad knew I was ate up with fishing, but to get me through, he bought me a VHS tape, and it was kind of the In-Fisherman greatest hits, and this was in 1993, I believe. So on that video, it had, and if you've watched a lot of In-Fisherman throughout the years, a couple of these scenes will ring very true to you. The catfish fever segment below the Selkirk Dam in Manitoba. There's that classic scene with Toad Smith. They're catching giant catfish in the tail race.
Oh, that was his name.
Yeah.
Toad Smith
from Iowa, which Doug is from Iowa too. So we have that connection. On that video also, there was this is the one. This is the video. I played the wheels off that tape too, man. The very first one I had kind of included this segment in it, but then I got that whole catfish fever video, and man, did that change me. I did this very stuff. I cut my teeth fishing, as we'll say now, in a farm creek in Eastern Iowa. And like everything they did, I did. I tried to mimic the whole thing, and it worked.
I remember this one from when I was young. Like this was the first one that I pulled up. You came on and we did like a little chat about like 5 minutes before the show went live. And I was like, dude, this one is like my favorite. And you're like, that's my favorite too. Like this was burned in my memory. So I was like, oh, I'll throw it up on the show.
Oh, the KFC bucket. There it is. The KFC bucket. That I will. I'm like, man, how much sand and bluegill guts is in the bottom of that thing? But
I remember him doing this. I recreated this at Camp Silka in Springfield, Illinois for channel cats with chicken liver on the dam, like multiple times. Like that. This show is the reason why I went night fishing every Labor Day and Memorial Day weekend, and would literally be like, why am I not catching 30-pound flatheads?
Well, and so the creek that, now as a writer, I say creek. And if we're talking about a portion of water feeding a big reservoir, I say creek, but let's be clear, from Iowa, it's a creek, and what they're fishing there is a creek. But I did the same sort of thing. And I think I probably, I burned through the rubber on my bike tires going 2 miles into town to buy 24 night crawlers over the weekend. And then all summer long, like days and days and days and days, I spent down at that creek, and no one would believe how many fish I caught, and especially my dad. So I started bringing them home, and I would bring a 5-gallon bucket full of 2-pound channel cats, which are good eating. And Doug would be very disappointed if he heard this, but my mom would throw half of them out because, they're catfish. What do you do with the catfish? But anyway, that early, I guess I was entertained at first by In-Fisherman because I loved fishing, and it was a way to live vicariously. But then it became it became a university for me, a form of education. And Matt, I could take you to the square footage on the lake that I've caught my first fish on a Texas rig in Iowa. And it was because of Bass in the Grass. That's another classic In-Fisherman video that taught me how to do various types of bass fishing today. And I talked my dad into taking me to the Quad City Expo, which is it's still a popular outdoor trade show in the winter. But back then, let me tell you something. Like, you couldn't find a place to park. There were people being bussed in. And when you get inside the trade show, like, it's elbow to elbow. And I remember very specifically, I wanted to see the Linder crew. How do you have this stuff? It's probably off our YouTube channel.
It's what I do for a living.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
All credit goes to In-Fisherman.
Oh, there it is.
On this.
Yeah. See, I told you we had that covered. Yeah. That's Brainerd. I know where that
this
lake
is Bass in the Grass.
Yes. Yeah. See, so I was at the Quad City Expo. This will make you laugh. I wanted to go to a seminar. I didn't realize how many there were going to be. As we're walking through the aisles of this thing, the In-Fisherman crew, which was Al Linder, James Linder, and Dan Sura, and Dave Sanda, I remember the names very classically, were being ushered through the crowd by cops. A team of cops were pushing people out of the way to get these dudes to the seminar stage. And I sat and listened to Jimmy. I listened to Al. I listened to Dan. I listened to Dave. And my dad was like, "You ready to go?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to leave," because I was just soaking it up. And so at an early age, this is high school, pre-high school, I was influenced by the In-Fisherman guys. And I never thought, I'd hoped. I think back then I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't know that it would ever take me here. And the path, I met some amazing people, experienced some incredible things, spent 5 years with Bassmaster covering tournaments. And really, I can't say enough about it, but like, these videos paved the way for my career. And in a funny sort of way, Matt, I feel like I owe something to the In-Fisherman readership, the viewership of just teaching people how to fish. And I may not be the best example of teaching people how to fish, because I'm really good at screwing things up. But I think if there's a way to find a lesson in the mistakes you've made, that's probably the biggest thing I can share is, learn to pick yourself up when you've made a bad call and make another cast, right? And that's tournament fishing, that's fun fishing, that's getting your kids out, that's taking a parent out, whatever it is. You just make another cast. And I think that there was a video that Al said, you never know when the next cast might hook a world record, so that's kind of been in my psyche for years and years and years. And it took me all over the country. I started my career in Iowa, came to Minnesota, worked for North American Fishermen. You might remember that organization.
Yep.
That had all the field testing things.
I think they would have the silver triangular,
yes,
stickers, and they'd send them to you, and
they never come off of cars. They stay on forever.
No,
you can't get
but
them off.
I would get like 8 of those a year sent to the home. I must have signed up for something at an outdoor show or something when I was younger, and just would get bombarded with those silver triangular stickers. And then they would ask if you, and books, and then they would ask if you wanted to like field test the baits and become like an exclusive tester of these things. And my dad
never worked that way.
He would never let me sign up for it. But I had all those stickers on like every tackle box that I had at the time.
Well, that organization is no longer. That's another long story. We're talking positive experiences here. That was a fun time. So I told you, drama follows me. It seems to, and it was there. And then when that organization basically folded, I went to Bassmaster. So we picked up our family, moved from central Minnesota down to Birmingham, spent 5 years there. And then, really, Matt, when we took the job in Alabama, Catherine and I both were like, we got to commit to this. This is going to be a lifetime. If we're going to move to Alabama and leave our beloved Minnesota, we need to take it like this is a permanent change. And we lived there like we weren't leaving. And there was there's some stuff we could talk about during those 5 years, and feel free, but we shared the media trailer together. That's really how Matt and I met each other, as we would spend long hours cranking out content during the tournaments. Well, probably during my 5th year, I started hearing rumblings of there being a restructuring at In-Fisherman, and I was actually contacted by, who's the first person that reached out? I'm forgetting who, but the last person was Dan O'Sullivan. He said, hey, Todd Seisner is associate publisher there at In-Fisherman now. Would like to talk to you about finding a person. And I'm kind of like, I sort of feel like I'm this person, but I don't know that it's right. And we'd committed to Alabama, right? So I wasn't going to leave. I don't want to tuck tail and run. But the more I talked to Todd about this, I realized that this position was exactly what I do. And I kind of started tinkering with the idea of moving home. Would it be the right decision? Is it, we've committed to this lifestyle. My son is a full blown Alabama Crimson Tide fan, right?
Oh boy.
That happened because we moved there. And just like me moving to Iowa as a fourth grader, I needed something to hang on to, right? And those the fishing videos my dad got me. And for my son, it was Alabama football. So
Oh boy.
I guess that's not a bad thing, Roll Tide, but we decided to move back, and it was the right decision. I mean, you tell me, Matt, have you ever been in one of these situations where you're faced with a life-changing decision and you kind of feel like it's a win-win, but you want to make sure you made the right decision in that situation, and it turns out you're like, man, this was the wrong decision or it was the right decision? We could not
taking
have
over the
made a better
show when Jeffrey walked in and said, "Hey, I'm done
Mhm.
in December on it." And I'm like, man, like, that was over 2.5 years ago now. But I mean, yeah, there was do you go do something else in the industry? Do you try to take it over? Like, what do you do with it? How do you
Mhm.
make it work? And you're like in a really good position and you're in it, but you don't. Yeah, it's a weird deal because when you're in an industry that you love or that's something that you've wanted to be in when you grow up, you don't want to do anything to jeopardize what you have because you're
Right.
aware of what a good situation you're in and you enjoy going to work, you enjoy doing it, even if there is BS that surrounds it. So you don't, like, at least with me, I don't want to get greedy and be like, oh, well, better. But then you also don't want to become stagnant and stay in the same thing and then be like, oh, well, I've been doing the same thing for 20 years and now it's old. So yeah, I totally get that. I kind of get that tug and pull. Plus, like when you were at Bass, you were there for 5 years. I mean, right towards the end there, that was the most chaotic time in the history of tournament fishing at all with the MLF and the BPT and the split
Mhm.
and all that is going on. So like there is a lot of different dynamics at play. And then also what was going on at In-Fisherman too. So yeah, that had to be some late night kitchen table discussions as to what to do.
Oh, you could ask my wife, especially during the Major League Fishing split. Part of what we'll talk a little bit about this. I don't mind sharing. There's probably a longer podcast with about 20 people, a round table that we could get into. But there was a group of us, I'd say 7 or 8 of us that were Bassmaster employees that had a list of anglers we had to check in on a weekly basis, and that list was anywhere from 8 to 10 anglers, and most of them, I would say, before a lot of them were uncomfortable with the situation. They felt like they were told they had to go. They weren't sure if they should. There was some allegiance to Bass. There was a lot of things that was going on. And so I was on the phone, Matt, for a year and a half anyways, almost every single evening for 3 hours after I left the office.
Just trying to figure out what was going on. And if this angler, where I think so-and-so's leaning towards staying, and if he stays, so-and-so stay. And, oh, dude, yeah, no, that
it was
had
like
to be
a
a
campaign.
nightmare.
It was like a campaign trail. You're trying to, but I'm a realist. I'm not going to lie to somebody. And I'm like, yeah, hey, Bass made a lot of mistakes. In fact, if we were to cut down to it, Bass essentially created Major League Fishing to an extent. And I think that what happened as a result of some poor leadership decisions. And I think they're pretty squared away now, but it's not perfect, but nobody is. And I think that this industry, the way it's evolved over the last few years, I think that it's gotten pretty cutthroat. And I'm going to take a step way back. So In-Fisherman inspired me, but I've always been a hunting junkie. I love whitetails. I love turkeys. I'm fascinated with archery. I love the outdoors, but hunting is really my jam. And I thought that's where I wanted to go. And so I worked pretty hard in the hunting industry, wrote a lot of stories, North American whitetail, fur fish and game, pretty well every whitetail magazine and turkey magazine I contributed to an extent. And then I started covering tournaments, and this was because I needed to make money. I was independent, had 2 little babies, and we were I was putting sheetrock on, during the weekends just to make ends meet. And I started covering the FLW Walleye Tour, which you brought that up a little bit ago. The FLW was booming in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s.
They had kingfish and redfish and walleye and bass, and
the walleye trail was rocking. I mean, it had a sold out arena. I'm sorry. Okay, there was the FLW Walleye Tour came out of the PWT, and that was In-Fisherman's
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep, they started that, but even PWT days would sell out arenas. I mean, it blows my mind just thinking about how popular so many of these different versions of fishing were back in the day. I'm down a rabbit trail here, but these guys were monsters in the fishing business. Keith Gavias, Gary Parsons, Tommy Scarless, who's a personal longtime personal friend
going
of mine.
back then? Was Jay's dad like the man? He still is the man.
He still is. He was PWT for sure. You know, he wasn't that older generation of original
look at
OGs.
The celebration. Look at that.
Takasaki. I mean,
just these fist pumps.
But these are guys that I looked up to. Now I'm not a walleye guy, but I recognize the value of what they did. So anyway, I didn't like the way the hunting industry was going. This is just awesome how you do this so quickly. You're a machine. There was some intense drama occurring in the hunting industry, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want anything to do with that. I was kind of sick and tired of drama, and so I went to the fishing industry, and look what happened. So it's probably my fault. It followed me around, but look at these guys. Yeah, they just had the NWT just had their tournament on Red Wing last weekend.
I could never get the same adrenaline rush for the slow reel and scoop on a crawler harness that you do just like boat flipping a 5 on braid out of a tree.
Oh, you're
I don't
right.
know. That one's pretty intense there. They got a little current. Looks like they got a lay down. This guy's chasing butterflies with the net. That is an awful net job.
Well, look at how long the handle is. See, a lot of these nets
he said, woo, high five. There it is. There's the action shot. So
there's one walleye tournament experience I got to share with you about. So Tommy Scarless was a mentor of mine. He invested in me when we were struggling to make ends meet. Tommy unfortunately passed away a few years ago from brain cancer, but Tommy was the Mike Iaconelli of the walleye world.
Okay.
And very, very flamboyant, and he was great with sponsors, taught me an awful lot about, being responsible and, not blaming people for things that went wrong. God bless him. Like he taught me some stuff I teach my kids. So Tommy was on Red Wing. So you showed that clip. The NWT was on Red Wing this last week. And the first year that I was covering the tour, I got on the water to cover Tommy. Now, Tommy had invested in me, and so we were friends anyways. I think so. John Balla would remember this too. John is a stats junkie, former walleye pro, but now he just kind of keeps up on the stats tournament to tournament. Well, I believe it was John, and if I was wrong, I know I'm speaking on live radio here, but John and Tommy were fishing the same spot. Tommy came into that final day leading the Derby, so he felt he had rights to the spot. And I think they bumped rails and exchanged some words, if I remember correctly. I was out there I was in Ross Grothy's boat shooting pictures of this.
They're throwing leeches at each other.
You would think. Well, Tommy had this rig, and I doubt he invented it, but it was the classic Rapala original floaters, right? So there's a walleye
the G11.
See, I don't even know what that is. Yeah, good job.
Gold 11. I think it was that, like the length was 11. Like whenever
time. Oh yeah. The black and gold. Yep. And then there was a silver and gold.
11. There was an S11, a G11, and then if you really wanted to get fancy, there was the Fire Tiger jointed, and that was the one that the pike loved. But we digress. Continue.
Yeah. Rabbit trails are great. So he tied a dropper rig, and it was almost a drop shot. I think it was essentially a drop shot, but it had a bunch of connections. So the main line went down to the first Rapala classic minnow, the
G11 or G13.
S11, I think it was not quite the big one. So he had all the hooks are pulled off of that, right? So it's tied to the nose. A dropper rig came off of the middle hook ring that went down to a weight, I believe. Any walleye guys out there listening to the show, correct me when you see me next. And then he had a second line come off the back of that rig that was tied on to another S11 or whatever that had the hooks on it. So basically, you have two floating baits down there. One had no hooks. The back one had a hook on it. So it was kind of like a drop shot, a wing dam drop shot rig on steroids. And he won the Derby on that thing. And I remember when he caught the winning fish, it was just he knew it. He came into that tournament knowing he'd won it, or was going to win that day. So yeah,
There it
yeah,
is, right there. That's the
a little
G.
bigger than that.
That's a small one, but anyway.
That's awesome. Anyway, so I kind of kind of stoked my tournament fires, and you know, I don't particularly love fishing for walleyes. I enjoy eating them; they're fantastic. But I'm not a super duper walleye angler like Doug Stange is, or my son is becoming a walleye angler. But really, looking back at those days, really kind of primed, you know, my career and thrust me forward. But so here we are. We're in the In-Fisherman facility right now, and looking back, I never thought I would be here doing this in the position I'm in, where I get to co-host a television show. I write for the magazine, manage the website. There's Jason.
Oh, that's Jason's kit. What are the odds of that? We talked about the old school walleye with Jason, and then there's his son Jay, who I was at a media event for Lose last year, and Jason was like, "Dude, he's like, I'm Jay's dad now." Like, it used to be Jay was always Jason's son growing up, and then you catch 100 pounds on the St. Lawrence River. Now, you know, all of a sudden you're
he's
Jay's
a
dad.
Super dude. You know, Jason was always great to work with. I love Jason. Spent a lot of time with him. We just wrapped up Walleye Week, by the way.
I noticed that. So anyway, yeah. So now you're what? You're 4 years into the In-Fisherman gig.
4 years into the In-Fisherman gig, and it's been a wild ride. I love it here, and I get to, you know, this facility. Things have changed over the years, as you know, Matt. There used to be 75 people in this building. This studio that I've created, if you will, is an old section of the West Wing, as we say, that had a bunch of cubes in it, and you know, nobody's working over here. So we've pulled a lot of stuff down. But when you wander the halls, or if you manage to get down into the vault and see some of the old classic stuff, you just kind of hear the whispers of Ron and Al Linder here, and know that so much was created in these walls. I know I sound silly saying this, but it's inspiring and haunting in the same step, right? You're like, man, so much happened here that inspired me, and I know it inspired tens of thousands, maybe millions of anglers across the country to, you know, try something new. So yeah, what am I going to do? It's already been done, but I hope to carry that legacy. I don't know if I'm doing it effectively or not, but I hope to, because they inspired me. So
well, we have to. I want to hear one more voice that to me goes along as synonymous with that, and then we'll take a break and come back and talk into some of those things that you're doing to preserve that legacy, some of the cool things that In-Fisherman is coming out with, and then kind of how it relates to the fishing world. But I think we should have audio on this, but this is the other. This is a lot, you know, along with some of those names, the Stange's, Dahlberg, Sir, like all that, but this voice, let me make sure, see if I have the volume turned up and see if we can share it. Okay, I think we should have audio.
Editor-in-Chief Doug Stange has made famous the variety of ways swim baits can be used to catch predatory fish, including largemouth bass. Let's join him as he goes into search mode on a lake he's never fished before.
Brief. That voice right there is that is like the. So I do that along with, like, so this was the first year that they had a new announcer for the Bassmaster Classic in a number of different years. But the intro voice, which was God, I can't. How did I just forget his name? Who was it?
Barry Brulin.
No, that's Barry. But who did the Bassmaster Classic?
Oh,
he just retired. They just did a thing with him. He was like, I know he's famous. And neither of us can remember his. I feel like an asshole right now.
You're gonna
a great anyway, but this voice still gives me goosebumps. Don Day, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. Don Day, yes, Don Day was like, dude, like that was the voice. But Barry Brulin for the end, when you heard Barry Brulin's voice, and he's still like, I've been trying to get him on the show too. So you're actually second fiddle to Barry Brulin. He's like hard to get on the show, by the way.
He is hard to get on. Well, so he still does radio here in Brainerd. You can hear him daily. He does several different. Well, they're all under the same umbrella, but you know, a couple of different shows as a DJ or some morning stuff. But yeah, he is just, his voice is so intoxicating. You hear it and immediately you think about In-Fisherman, and he's been doing it the entire time. So when the day comes when he retires, who's going to take those reins? I have a I don't know that anybody will ever do the job that Barry did for In-Fisherman. You're right. It's synonymous. That sound makes you think.
So he's like a DJ. So you could literally be driving through Minnesota in the morning hearing up next Blank Spaces by Taylor Swift. And that's the In-Fisherman voice.
Well, he might have better standards than that. Yeah, but he is here local in Brainerd and does radio here. That's his job. It's his career. So he's there was a point. I'd love to get his story just like you, because I think there was a point where he, loves the area, loves to fish, worked perfectly with In-Fisherman, had opportunities to go fishing. But I've heard, can't validate any of this, but he's had offers to go all over the country and decided to stay here. Yeah, I mean, you have to think a guy like that with the gift of voice has been in demand throughout his career. So that man he's a legend in his own right.
We're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about what you've got going on in that In-Fisherman studio. And then I also want to dive into how you navigate the tournament world with the fun fishing world, with the educational world. In-Fisherman, back in that original article coined, and I talk about it on the show all the time, the F+L+P, fish plus location plus presentation equals success. You guys at In-Fisherman are big on education, but like Shakur, it is on the cover of the website right now, which is a professional angler. It's an interesting world of kind of melding together, and I'd like to get your take on that. So it is BTL on a Wednesday with Thomas Allen from In-Fisherman. We will be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Gamakatsu, the innovation leader in fish hooks, is launching Nano Alpha technology in 2024. Nano Alpha is a new finish available on Gamakatsu's most popular hook styles. It delivers 2 times slicker performance, 4 times better corrosion resistance. Nano Alpha technology makes the world's greatest fish hooks even better in 2024 to help anglers catch more fish.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top 100, Strike King.
It's definitely a lot colder today.
Man, I really need to make this cut. I need to make up points quick.
Positive mental attitude.
I hope they stay where I found them.
Are they even pulling water?
Too far.
And I hope nobody else.
Man, it's too windy.
The water's too high.
Avco, keeping you comfortable on the outside, no matter how you're feeling on the inside.
All right, welcome back. BTL on a Wednesday. Thomas Allen from In-Fisherman. Dude, I had a chance. I jumped in the old Tuesday nighter when we kind of booked this. I said, hey, I'm headed to the Tuesday nighter. Oh, it was a heartbreaker.
Heartbreaker for you or for them?
For us. 8 boats. I mean, it's a genuine Tuesday night. Like, I love these little Tuesday nighters. I've been about 2 years in the studio or in this house where I'm in now, but Oklahoma has a shocking number. Like, okay, I'm talking to a dude who lives in Minnesota, so you're not going to be impressed, but Oklahoma has a shocking number of, small fisheries, drinking water fisheries, all these little farm towns, all these little towns out in the middle, they have drinking water. DNR does a good job of stocking them. They experiment with Floridas and some of them, all sorts of different species. But a lot of these have little, you could fish a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night jackpot, kind of like you can up in Minnesota.
Shocking. So you use the word shocking. Like what is a shocking number of fisheries to you?
200 across the state that you've never heard of, that if you look at it, you can go dump your boat in and catch fish out of, and you will not see maybe one other boat out there.
We have 400 within an hour.
That's what I'm saying, but I'm just saying you don't think of Oklahoma and a bunch of small, you know what I mean? Like you think of like Texoma Grand, you fall a Fort Gibson 10 killer, and that's about it. But long story short, so we jump in this eight boat derby right off the hopper. I load one up and it comes off. No big deal. Then I box a 311. So I was happy on that. Then I hook one that I can't turn. That is a big one. And it starts to come up and it pulls off 3 fish derby. Then we decide to fire up the old live scope, and my partner Tyler rolls his cricket past a large blob on the screen, and he hooks it up, and it's a 5 to 6 pounder. Then he gets it, I mean, to the point where I was in the driver's seat, like ready to land, and it jumps off. And then I lose another one that I never saw, and we end up coming in with 7.5 pounds. And it was just one of those derbies where, you ever had those nights in those derbies where you're like, my God, I cannot you just know as soon as you hook it, like, this is just not our night.
Yep. Many times. And those weeknight derby things, I don't feel like that was a thing here in Minnesota until recently. And by recently, we'll say probably within the last 10 years, that's kind of become a thing.
Is that a Sobey deal? Like,
Sobey?
is his Tuesday? Sam Sobey, is his Tuesday night tourneys like really turned a lot of people on to the local tournament scene up in Minnesota?
I'll tell you,
because I watch it in Oklahoma.
Yeah. I don't know who that is. I know the name, but I don't.
Oh, dude, you got to watch Sam Sobey and Tourney Tuesdays. Every year he does a different one. And since there's so many lakes, you can fish little jackpots on all the different lakes. So it's not like you're giving up the same brush piles on every single lake every week that your competitors can watch. So he can show the playbook on 12 different lakes in 12 different weeks. And then it's like he turns it. It's like almost as interesting as the Bassmaster Classic.
That's actually very true. And we have a Thursday nighter we fish here in Brainerd, which is. They cap it at 25 boats, but occasionally it's been over that. But we do kind of have a family of lakes, if you will, that we fish. I'd say there's probably 10 of them, and it's a weekly draw, so you don't know what it's going to be. They draw it on Monday. It's off limits.
I love that.
It's a great time. And I'm going to tell you right now, my son has been fishing with me. We fished a couple tournaments together while we were still in Alabama. He kind of learned the ropes there. And he's become the kind of stick that anybody would like to have in the boat. He can run the boat. He can fish out the back. But anyway, he and I have done okay. But Minnesota, you don't think of as a bass fishing state. I mean, if you don't live here, the first thing that probably comes to mind is walleyes and pike. Those are very popular species here and something you would travel here to experience. But the bass fishery is arguably second to none. It's unbelievable. And every one of these lakes is full of largemouth. There's smallmouth scattered in between. You could have a lush green, very, very fertile lake on one side of the road. And on the other side of the road, you could have crystal clear, 12 to 15 foot visibility, smallmouth walleye fishery. Right. So it's really interesting. Whatever name gets pulled out of the hat that week, you don't know what it's going to be. So it's become quite popular here. And honestly, I've been fishing tournaments since I was in high school. I've never been very good at it, Matt. And I, you know what? I'm inspired by you because I'm a content guy. I'm a tournament junkie, but I'm a content guy because I'm no good at tournaments. So I fish tournaments because I love the competition, and it's a way for me to stay relevant. To be honest, that's how I keep up on the technology. That's how I see new baits in action, and I kind of scratch the itch I've always had to compete. Well, you were kind of paving the way. I know this isn't about you and you're going to stop me, but you're paving the way to do something I guess I've always dreamed of doing. And that's being a content guy first and then working on a professional fishing career. And dude, like, please do it. I'm rooting for you. I'm back here cheering because I think there's a lot of us that are writers or photographers that have watched this game for so long from afar, and you're kind of pushing forward into doing that. And I'm impressed.
I'm trying. We'd be remiss. So like the guy who's the closest to it right now, who could do it, no doubt, would be Jody White. He works over at MLF now. He won a Bassmaster Open on Thousand Islands. If he shows up to Champlain, it's pretty much a guaranteed win. He is super. Like if I was to pick one like professional media guy that could cut it, I would say Jody White is probably the closest to it. But yeah, no, I've dived in for the last 5 or 6 years, like completely head first. You talk about those big decisions. Like I had that opportunity through AFCO to be the AFCO Bass Boot Camp guy, but like, it is the best decision I've ever made. Like, yeah, I take some shit for it. But I'm also talking about every single 60th and 50th and 160th in this case this year finish, and I'm 100% okay with that because 99.99% of anglers go through that. They just don't have eyeballs on them watching it, and I enjoy the entire experience, and I think it makes the show better. I think it makes the content better. It's relatable when you're in the trenches, when you're on the road traveling. Like, I can't relate to what's going on the Elite Series right now. I would love to be able to in the future. But as far as the opens and trends and everything that's going on, I think it helps the overall buzzword for the last couple of years, brand. In fishing the opens, and I'm willing to take the lumps along the way. And
well,
plus, dude, that adrenaline, when it actually freaking happens, the only time I've got that adrenaline is right when I used to play junior hockey, and you know, you go out on the ice and it's the big game and it's to get into the playoffs and you score that goal and it's just that like just that guttural reaction. Like you get, like, there's so many people who go through decades and they never get that adrenaline rush, and I think that's like integral to the human experience and to keeping yourself young and excited.
Well, one of the things that I felt like I was very familiar with the pro angler business even before I came to Bass. I worked with Tommy Scarless, Ross Grothy, Jimmy Bell, Mark Courts, Jason Shakurit, Keith and Gary. So I'm very familiar with the business side of it, and I feel like traditionally people have come in as anglers first. They learned the business as they go, and frankly, a lot of them never ever figure out the business side of it. The names I just listed off are guys that understand the business, but you know, there are there are some sad stories we could talk about of guys that made it through the opens and fished the elites and then washed out partway through year 2 or didn't make the cut after their second year. So I think that going in knowing the business first on your side of things, understanding media, understanding how they pay their bills is going to make you powerful when you do get there. And Jody, the same. You guys have worked on the curation side and been on the water taking pictures or interviewing anglers. You're picking stuff up as you go, and I think that your passion for angling that's coming behind that when you guys do make it, it's going to make you very, very powerful. Not necessarily holding the trophy over your head every time, but maintaining the business side of things. So you're going to find that your route into that, I think, is going to probably be pretty strong in the payoff just long term, because you know what it takes to stay out there. You don't have to just catch fish. Now, if you don't catch fish, you're out the door. That's a fact. You got to catch fish, but you got to be able to pay your bills. So I think you guys are doing a good thing. Guys like me we're cheering you on, bro. So keep it going. And you showed up to the St. Jude's and kicked all of our butts. You weren't even there for the week that I was getting ready.
Yeah, that was a Bartuzek deal. Like I said, I just showed up and caught the fish. I'd have some pretty cool fish catches. Like I said, I will take credit for some badass fish catches, but finding them's the tough part. All right, let's talk about this. So In-Fisherman, this is a bubble. BTL, in my opinion, we got the best, most educated, hardcore fan base in professional fishing. They follow everything. They jump on every morning. We got hundreds of people on every morning, thousands of people listen to every single show. But it's hard to get outside of that tournament fishing bubble. Things that are a big deal in here, like I'll even try to like explain why it's a big deal to my 75-year-old mom, and she'll be like, well, why don't they, why? Like, I don't get and she's a hardcore, follows it and has since I've been in this thing for 15 years. What is the vibe outside? Because you're on the inside, you've been on the inside, you know how it works, but now you're on the outside around a group of anglers that is just as passionate about multi-species, about bass fishing. There's a little bit of commingling, intermixing, but in your just opinion, maybe not the official In-Fisherman opinion, what is the vibe of high-level tournament bass fishing viewed by the angling industry as a whole?
Well, one of the important things to talk about here, and it's been a few years since I've seen a recent study, but the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service puts out a survey every so often. It's every 4 years, and honestly, I'm not entirely sure if they're still doing it. But the last one I saw was in 2016, 17-ish. And if anybody who's listening wants to double check me on this, that's fine. But the last research numbers that I saw showed that 65% or greater of people do not fish tournaments and do not like tournaments. 65% of licensed buyers. So, and I think it might even be bigger than that. So as the tournament world has gotten more popular, there's more people getting involved. And so that number is going to grow a little bit, but the overarching reality is that the tournament crowd is really a pretty small crowd. And you said a minute ago, we're kind of in a bubble, and I live that at Bass. You kind of don't. You have a tendency to not think beyond that bubble. You're like, okay, this is the greatest. These are the greatest bass fishermen in the world on the greatest bass fishery together, fishing the greatest tournament, the classic. That those are all true. There's nothing wrong with saying that, but understanding that the vast majority of fishing licensed buyers across the country couldn't give a rip about tournaments. They'll never fish a tournament, and that's fine. And I think that number is a relationship that In-Fisherman is very close to. We are appealing to people that are not necessarily going to buy a bass boat and go jump on a Thursday night or a Tuesday night or whatever. They're licensed buyers that are learning how to fish. And there's a lot of cases, Matt. I think we could probably think of numbers of people that if they jumped into the tournament scene would dominate, but they choose not to because fishing is something different to them. It's a release, it's a reprieve, it's an opportunity to unplug and to reconnect with nature. And they don't want to cloud that, if you will, with the pressures of a tournament. And the beautiful part about fishing and hunting, as long as it's within the confines of the law, you get to do it however you want. And if that's fulfilling, then you need to continue doing it that way. So I believe In-Fisherman has kind of been the North America's, we're often heralded as the authority on multi-species fishing in North America. And I think that's true. Doug Stange is a world-class walleye angler. He is a world-class cat fisherman. And trust me, if the bass are gonna be biting a tube or a jig, he's as good as anybody out there, but he's not a tournament guy, has no interest. And it's really important to us and to this brand that we represent fishing on the education platform. Of course, there's some entertainment involved in that with the television show, our YouTube, our social media, stuff like that. But we're not here to tournament fish. There was a time when In-Fisherman started tournaments. I'm forgetting if there was a bass series way back in the day. I don't remember, but the PWT was under the In-Fisherman brand for a long time. So that was a part of it. But I think as time went on, as fishing grew in popularity, this brand sort of moved away from tournaments. Now, if you open the pages to this magazine, and we're going to have hopefully Matt Stefan on here in a little bit.
He's going to jump on. He's enjoying the podcast so much right now that he's like, you know what? I'm going to wait 10 or 15 minutes before I jump on because I want to see where this is going to go. It's a beauty of the show. Like, we have no time limit. It depends on what your time limit is.
I don't have one. Okay. The beauty is we can still quote professional anglers in here because I still feel like they're heralded as professionals and authorities on a lot of topics. Matt is featured in one of these stories here. So it's kind of a blurry line. You asked about what the line was, and it's blurry. We're not going to cover a tournament in this magazine. We may post something about a classic winner on the website, but you'll not see any type of press release regarding tournament finishes within our organization necessarily. So I think that it's important we maintain that line because, really, the numbers are obvious. Tournaments don't matter that much to everybody. Now, they're important to me personally. My boss, the CEO of all things Outdoor Sportsman's Group, Mike Carney, he's not into tournaments at all. In fact, we've talked often about we both work on a magazine we produce here called Kayak Fishing Fun, and he's the publisher. I'm one of the editors, and I cover the tournament side in that magazine, or we talk about building a tournament ready kayak. And he builds his kayak for simplicity purposes, creature comforts, things like that. It's still rigged to the hilt, but he's like, I don't understand why people do tournaments. It's just not for me. But he understands that there's a large group of people that do. It gives us something to do on a Tuesday or Thursday night. There it is. There's Kayak Fishing Fun right down there. So yes, we absolutely understand the value of tournaments and understand what they bring to the marketplace. And frankly, you know, the forward facing sonar discussion has been pretty hot as of late. And I also want to provide that as an option to our base as well, something that they could use to enjoy fishing or be more involved in. But you know, I don't think that that's going to have the impact. That technology is not going to have the impact on the non-tournament crowd as it is to the tournament anglers. So we're not looking to like integrate forward-facing sonar across the board, but we want to present it as an option. And anybody that's willing to embrace the technology, learn it, there's an application. So we kind of decided we weren't going to go down this road, but I do want to make a point with our crowd here. And this is one of the biggest things I hear from mutual friends of ours, Matt, that fish on the top levels of bass fishing, even walleye fishing, I suppose, that you often hear this comment that forward-facing sonar is going to decimate or ruin fisheries. And that is what plays to my crowd. That's what the non-tournament angling community hears, and that concerns them because they're like, well, I don't want my fish to get poached or my populations to get destroyed, so I don't want that sonar on my lake. Well, really what that comes down to is the personal responsibility factor. I think we could agree pretty evenly that the technology is not hurting the fishery. The technology is not killing the fish. It is making them a little bit more vulnerable to the limit fillers. But here at In-Fisherman, we very strongly promote selective harvest. You know, this state is full of walleye lakes, and there's great crappie fishing here. And if Doug were here, he would tell you that one of his favorite eating fish is a 12 to 13-inch largemouth. And frankly, out of cold water, they're pretty good. So there's definitely a reality of selective harvest, put and take fisheries. And that technology does make filling that limit, if that's your goal, a little bit easier. So as we've gone down this trail of the non-tournament crowd, there is some interlacing of how we all work together, and what needs to happen is limits need to change and people need to practice responsibility. Do you need to catch 20 crappies every day? You know, there's a lot of things that need to be discussed, and I think we're on the early end of what's going to happen down the road with this technology. But I do want our readership to know it is an applicable technology to your fishing boat, tournament or not. It is a lot of fun, and if you're going to enjoy it, then at the very least practice responsibility with it. So we really want to make sure that people are responsible with it, and hey, grow with it. I love technology. I'm fascinated by it. I've committed to learn and grow with it. I'm not that good at it.
Your job literally depends on technology.
It does, but if you and I get in the boat and you're like, man, use your forward-facing sonar like this, I'll be like, yeah, I'm still working on that. So yeah. I don't have 100% I love it or hate it opinion. I have a growing opinion with it, and I think you'll agree with this too, Matt. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm willing to consider someone's opinion on the technology that has mastered it over someone that can't use it and has an opinion on it. I want to know.
I 100% agree. So here's the deal. So I listened to Mercer's podcast with Carl Jacobson, and Carl's the first person who put it this way that made total sense to me. He said, everybody's right and everybody's wrong. So, you know, I've been in this game and talked to a bunch of people. So I've got rookies who have listened to BTL since they were rookies on the Elite Series, since they were 10 years old. And which was only 11 years ago. We're not
getting any younger, bro.
And I'll call, they'll call me up and I'll hear it for an hour. Then I talked to Matt Herron for 2.5 hours 2 days ago, and I get his side. And like I said, it's an interesting thing. And it is an interesting deal, like where you are with In-Fisherman, because F plus L plus P, fish plus location plus presentation equals success. So,
yep.
Okay, so I want to dive into this then. And then we'll bring in a pro angler on the BPT. A lot of like Formula One racing, and I'm going to get this wrong, but this is the gist of it. A lot of like a car racing, like we may not relate to it, but you talk about like safety innovations, engines, that type of stuff, then trickles down into the consumer every day. Hey, that's why you have a lot of major companies that have, Porsche racing and Ferrari and all that, and it trickles down. So is it new techniques? Strolling, pinging a minnow, Alabama rig, all this. Is it born in tournament fishing and then extrapolated to, let's say for a better term, the masses, the in-fisherman crowd, who even though they might hate tournament fishing, they're catching more fish because of a technique that was in a major tournament that then was disseminated out? Or is it the guys that are out in the John boats that are catching it, and then tournament guys grab it and they bring it into the tournament world and then expose it? Do you see, like, is there still, because I feel like there's a massive value in professional tournament fishermen, like, and we'll bring him in here and we'll see what he says, like a Matt Stefan, who goes out on the BPT and catches them on a specific bait. And then 6 months later, a guy is reading about it in Fisherman, who doesn't even know that Matt Stefan or the BPT exists, but that's where Matt Stefan's value is, because now the guy's buying stuff from Pure Fishing and reading about it in an In-Fisherman because of what happened in the tournament. Do you see what I'm trying to say there?
I do. And hi, Matt, you look fantastic today.
Hey, Thomas.
It's because he got new internet.
I did. Starlink. I'm very, very happy with Starlink so far. We had an internet service that was about as bad as you can get. And,
it was awful. And you do this every day.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
Yeah, it should be a tax write-off now, is how I look at it.
That's right. Well, let me answer your question, because first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about this, but Matt was featured in this article, and this is one of those examples, right? So the Ned rig was, I think, designed by
Ned Cahill in like Kansas to catch a number.
A couple of these, yeah. So Ned would not claim he invented it, but he was a part of bringing it to the light, and it's one of the most powerful presentations out there. It drives me nuts how stupid this Ned rig is, and gosh, the fish love it, especially here. So there's 2 points here. Absolutely, that the non-tournament crowd might develop something and take it, and a tournament angler might find it and take it to the top. But really, the top levels of tournament fishing are the proving grounds. That's where these guys are the hardest on their gear. They're the most devoted to mastering something so that it can be then, I guess, delineated out or shared throughout the masses of here's how you become better. And, it's accepted on different levels at different locations, but ultimately those top levels push innovation, because, the next guy wants to win. So what can I do different than what's going on? Get on a cutting edge presentation, use cutting edge technology, but it has to be proven at that level for it to be viable to be written about by organizations like In-Fisherman and Bassmaster and anybody with, within the publication world. But I'm going to give you an example of why I think the top level of fishing is super important to just the general public. I have a very close friend in Iowa who's a game warden, and we talked about this not too long ago, actually, that the advancements that are created within that technology, they're pushed through faster because of the top world of tournament angling, especially bass fishing. So that innovation is pushed forward quickly, right? That's what I'm trying to prove. Mm-hmm. That technology is available to him to help recover victims, drowning victims and boat accident victims. And it took longer to find and recover those bodies because the technology was just side imaging. And then it became mega. And then, forward-facing sonar has made the difference between an open casket funeral and not. So I know that's kind of a sad thing. We talked about making the show positive, but really what I'm trying to express here is that technology that was quickly innovated and forced through on the top levels of fishing lately has allowed other benefits that trickle down. So it doesn't just appear in the pages of In-Fisherman magazine. It's used on game warden boats and search and rescue crews. And, we've probably seen a lot of the stuff on YouTube where these cold cases are closed because of modern fishing technology on these, little rubber boats that people are on. So I think that there's really a secondary or third level beneficiary of this technology and the innovations. And that's in search and rescue. So not the biggest purpose and probably not the original purpose for a lot of this, but it's something that I think needs to be considered. So I'll sit here and tell you, I am absolutely not for banning the technology. I understand what restrictor plate racing is. I understand what wooden bats are in the Major League Baseball world. I understand all that. So if there is a point where it has to be managed differently on the top level of bass fishing, I understand that. I really hope it doesn't get banned altogether, because that type of technology benefits other things and other people. So,
but the point is, this discussion is because of what is happening at the top level of competitive bass fishing in the BPT, in the Elite Series. So, so I wanted to get Matt on. So all this kind of came full circle. Are you jealous of my In-Fisherman hat, Matt?
I am. I really am. I saw that, dude. That hat brings back so many memories of like being a little kid watching, Al and Ron and James and those guys do their thing in the boat, and that's the hat they were wearing.
Text me your address.
This one. Oh yeah, he'll send you one. This is a Richardson 112.
On that.
No, I mean it's
perfect.
I know the guy that has the box of them hoarded somewhere. So,
so I wanted to bring you in at this because you made a post on this is weird how this all came full circle, but you made a post on your Instagram. Yesterday, after I didn't see it till after I'd had Thomas booked on the show, and you were like pumped because you were in the latest episode of In-Fisherman in print. And you said that I talked to you off the record. You might not say this. You were like, dude, I don't care. Like, I've arrived. Like, this is all I've ever wanted. And out of every publicity and publication I've ever been in, I can die a happy man now. Is that a fair assessment of kind of how it went? Hold that back up, Thomas.
I'm getting there. Sorry. Turn the page.
We got everybody holding up.
Double. Everyone
there
holding
it is.
up.
Yeah. There's a close-up right there. Look at him.
Dude, it's and the cool thing is I'm in there with Gussie too, and Gussie's a good buddy of mine, and I wasn't I didn't know, I obviously I was interviewed for the article, but I didn't know when it was coming out, and I didn't know, what the article would fully entail, right? So to see Gussie in there with me is pretty cool, and it was a great article overall. But listening to the show for both of you guys, I have a very similar experience. I grew up on the north side of Chicago, and, the Lindners were from the Chicago area, moved up to Brainerd, did their whole thing with In-Fisherman. And that was our source of content. It really was like, I got Bassmaster magazine as well, but that was not, to me, it was not nearly as relatable because I wasn't fishing the lakes that most of the time they were talking about. And I was really much more of a multi-species. When I was younger, I was really a hardcore muskie guy more than anything. My dad was always chasing the ghost of catching the walleyes, right? That was a walleye was like a mythical creature to us because we just couldn't catch them. So our fallback was In-Fisherman. And, Matt, you mentioned getting the magazines every year as a gift. Well, we used to have a magazine drive at my school. So like we get this catalog of all the different magazines, and In-Fisherman was in that. And that was like every year. It was like resub to it. And that's where I got my content from. But I was, I don't know if it's because it was created in the upper Midwest and that's why we relate to it so much, or if it's because it's such a multi-species magazine. And we just like, I feel like up north here, there's the multi-species fishing is much more, it's grasped by the angling community much more, because you go down south and generally speaking, you don't have all the same species, or everyone is bass or everyone is crappie, and that's kind of it. Up here, you got walleye, muskie, pike, smallmouth, largemouth, it's everything. So as a young angler growing up, that's what I related to. And plus, the magazine it's all educational. That's really how I viewed it. And then not only would I get the magazine, but then you'd watch the TV show, and it was like, okay, I read the article. Now I get to see, Al Lindner working the jerkbait. So I as an angler learned way more from In-Fisherman than anything else growing up. And yeah, when I got to see myself in the magazine, it was a little bit of a surreal moment for me. It was like, this is pretty awesome. I mean, which is why I shared it. And the funny thing is, when you called me yesterday, Matt, you're like, hey, I want you to jump on for a few minutes. I didn't even realize you were having Thomas on. You may have thrown his name out quick.
You'd have said no if you'd have known.
I didn't even realize it because we got to spend a lot of time together. Was it last January?
It's been 2 years now.
Was it 2 years when we did that?
Yeah.
We built rods together at Mudhole and then went out and spent the day fishing.
Total side note, I'm not even going to lie to you about this. That is my number one go-to medium heavy rod. I love it, and I want to make a dozen more. It's a great rod.
Is it the FP 885 you built?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Of course, the FP old 885. We all know about that one.
We got to.
What about that LZ 972 947? That one. Oh man, that one will catch him too.
I forget a lot.
7.4.
You guys sound like Loomis guys now. You talk to a Loomis guy, they won't say a single word. It's all just numbers and letters.
That's right. Well, I'm a bit of a junkie with that
am I
stuff.
wrong?
So no,
am
that's
I wrong?
right.
You ask a Loomis guy, and he's like, that's the GLX 962.43, not to be confused with the 847 with the faster tip of the 936. You're like, dude, like, what is it? Just tell me. 7.4 medium heavy.
It's a 7.6 medium heavy, I think. I love it.
I have to get into this because I had a very similar experience as Matt, Stefan. The first thing I did was send this link to my dad. And this was at a deal that David Brown wrote, but I am on infisherman.com. And I told David Brown, he was writing an article, and I said, if we're doing it and it's going to go in In-Fisherman, I said, it has to be the most In-Fisherman title ever. So we came up with a typical approach to familiar finesse rigs. And I did this in like 2.5 years ago. And it's about nail weight, wacky rigging, a Zoom Fluke Junior for vertically suspended largemouth in the warm summer months. I feel like I was ahead of my time. This thing has been out there since 2022. And I mean, why it works. There's the whole photo gallery, like
almost zero SEO value in that title.
What does that mean?
That's my job. What that means is like, you're right. That was as in-fishy as it gets. But when it comes to search engine, like atypical and fishing are not two words that generally get searched out a bunch.
Unless you're an In-Fisherman guy.
Maybe so. You know what? I'm going to resurface this because this is a great article. We're going to put that on the website today.
Anyway, so that was my In-Fisherman claim to fame. But, I said it has to be an In-Fisherman article because I want to read about back trolling for weed edge panfish with micro spinner baits.
Oh, this is good. There's a level of inspiration that we all take. And I don't know what fish it was for you, Matt. I got both of you on here. Yeah. For me, it was largely channel catfish, and it turned into panfish, and then bass and muskies. I've been a muskie junkie my entire life. I love muskies. I just like to catch fish, so I don't go after them as often as I used to. But I feel I'm trying to think of the word. It's like taking a step back in time when I get to do an In-Fisherman catfish segment. It means so much to me. I love catfish. They don't get the glory they deserve like a big largemouth or a big smallmouth, but there's something carnal or something that's just like grassrootsy about being on catfish waters and being around anglers that are just ate up with it. Their entire life was built around catfish. To me, that's the good stuff.
So here's what I find interesting. Back in the day, like I'm a hockey guy, and it was always big in hockey. Like you wanted your hockey player kid to also play baseball. to also play soccer, to also get into a bunch of different sports. And then we've now gotten into it seems like, they're getting specific coaches and they're picking their sport at 10 years old, and they're golfers or they're baseball players or they're hockey players. And it's hockey. I've always thought of fishing as the same way. You guys both have kids. I don't have kids. Matt, we talk about, Hank, how obsessed he is with it. Thomas, you're talking about how your son is a multi-species angler. But if you're developing it, don't you think, and this is right up the In-Fisherman alley, you become a better fisherman, even if your end goal is to be a professional bass fisherman,
yes,
by fishing and diving into multi-species, where you spend weeks trying to catch trout out of current-driven rivers and individual muskie off boulders. Like, I feel like with high school and junior and college fishing, there's so much emphasis on bass. And I talk to guys who are like, man, I only fish if I'm practicing for a tournament or I'm pre-practicing for a tournament or a tournament. And the nuances that you learn from targeting other species that translate over a career of successful fishing are lost when you don't have the joys of the channel cat, the trout, the muskie, and all that. Fair assessment?
Totally. Matt?
Yeah, 100% agree. And I've talked about this a handful of times because I get, you get the question a lot of times about why there's more northern tournament anglers now than I think there has been in the past. And that's one of my fallback responses is always, that the skill level is really good. The biggest thing holding anglers back has always been the amount of travel more than anything. And I think once you had a handful of guys kind of show that they could compete, you started getting a lot more guys that went down that path. But ultimately, at least for myself, man, I fall back on so many different things I've learned for different species and then apply it to the bass fishing world. And I can't tell you how often, it works, and it doesn't necessarily work in my neighborhood. It works down in Florida or Texas or someplace where, I'm just able to take knowledge that I've gained from fishing for other species and apply it. And I think that's one of the best things about northern anglers is they generally are very, very well-rounded anglers because of that. We've got all the different lake types. We've got all the different species. And then when they can really dial it in, they know how to apply it when they're chasing bass down south. And
there was a time, Matt, I felt like the walleye anglers really led the way with technology.
Yeah, 100%. Remember, there were a number of walleye guys. Like, remember Travis Manson was like, I think I'll try bass fishing. And he qualified for the Elite Series in 3 tournaments, threw everything on a spinning rod.
That's a true story. And I think that for a long time, that talent has been here. It's been in the north, but it didn't make its way south. Now I got to tell you a rabbit hole story here that you'll enjoy, I think. So the North American fisherman days were coming to a close for me. We decided to take the job at Bassmaster and head south. And I have a weird way of remembering where I was when certain things happened, but I know where I was on the road just outside of Buffalo, Minnesota, when my phone rang. So we'd already accepted the position, right? We were planning to pack our family up and move south. My phone rang and it said Linder Media. I'm like, what? Okay. Like, you gonna keep me from going south? I'd love you to not have to make me go down there. So I answered the phone and you'll never forget this. He goes, Thomas Allen, Ron Linder Media, In-Fisherman. I'm like, Ron Linder is calling me. And I'm like, what is going on? He goes, my brother Al and I, Alphonse, he said, my brother Alphonse and I wanted to call and congratulate you on your position. We've followed your work and we want you to take this northern perspective south and let them southern boys know that we can catch bass up here too. And he commissioned me, right? So I took that seriously. And within my first week at Bass, I went and spoke to I don't remember exactly who it was. I talked to whoever does the work at setting up tournaments. And as a result, we went to Mille Lacs. We went to Oahe. And one of the lakes on my list, Matt, you'd appreciate, was Winnebago in Wisconsin. Like, I know that's a great bass fishery. Bassmaster never ended up going there, but Major League Fishing did for some interesting reasons. But I feel like, to an extent, I ruined Minnesota bass fishing. So I'm sorry to everybody listening that hates the fact that the elites came to Mille Lacs, but that's what you talked about, Matt, is really what Ron Linder called me about. Is there's a lot of talent here. There's a lot of multi-species anglers that hey, tomorrow they're going to fish walleyes on Gull Lake, but this weekend they're going to go for pike over on this other lake. And I think that having the drive to seek out different species teaches you something, because you accidentally bump into bass in a weird spot, right?
And here's what a lot of people don't realize. So In-Fisherman would not exist had it not been for tournament fishing, because Al won a muskie tournament when he was a kid, and that's what started him down this whole path.
And Al fished the Bassmaster, whatever that was back in the day, fished a couple classics. He won a Bassmaster tournament.
Yeah,
I need to look him up.
Yeah, he's got amazing stats. I think he only did it for a couple of years, but he dominated. I mean, he really did well.
So he took what he learned here.
3 Bassmaster Classics.
Yeah.
He was in the money 14 times in 26 tournaments. He had 11 top 10 finishes in 26 tournaments.
Yeah, dude, he was.
That dude was just targeting weed edge.
Well,
every time he could, he was in the weeds
with a jig worm.
You know what? Here it is. I've thought about this in the past. Matt, I think you'll agree with this. So I've been married for 21 years. Bless her heart. She stayed. The fact that I come home to having the same lock on my door sometimes is a good thing. But so her family has a cabin in central Minnesota. I'm going to leave the location out of it because it's an amazing place. And we have been coming up and fishing there all the time. And I use that area to, I'm not going to use the word master because I'm a content guy, not a tournament pro, but I became proficient at a lot of techniques. And I feel like it's very important if you're going to become good at anything, whether it's a Texas rig, a vibrating jig, a drop shot, a jig minnow, you pick your poison. You need to be in places where the fish are going to bite it, right? So that you can build confidence in that presentation, understand how that presentation works. And I'm a big believer that this part of Minnesota, this part of the Midwest, lots of Wisconsin lakes, there's South Dakota lakes, there's all kinds of areas where there's a lot of dumb fish. And so you have the opportunity to become confident in a presentation, whatever it might be. And if you're going to take that presentation south and find something similar, right, that you're used to fishing here, a rock pile, a grass edge, there's not a lot of brush piles in Minnesota, but you do have some similar things there. You're going to take that bait and you're going to know how to present it. You're going to know how to feel when a fish eats it. So the opportunity we had here in the upper Midwest to master that presentation probably played on a lot of southern fisheries. And that's why you're seeing a guy like Seth Fighter, Matt Stefan, Bob Downey, the list goes on of northern guys that went south and have done very well. Al Linder back in the day. So having the opportunity to be successful here really propelled people forward in the South.
Do you agree, Matt?
Yeah, I agree.
Because I mean, you're up there, you're fishing around up there. Like I always like going up because you're going to get bit
a lot.
Like that's the beauty of it. Like you're going to go out and catch fish.
Well, and that's one of the biggest problems with trying new techniques and trying new baits is developing that confidence. And I mean, how many times do you grab it? You get a new bait in the mail or you read about a new technique, you go out and try it and you don't catch a fish. And it's like, well, was it like the day? Was it where I was at? Like, yeah, there.
Are you drop shotting a crankbait? Is that what I said?
No, this is Matt Steffens. This is Matt Steffens' addition to the BTL studio. He had to learn this one up north where the fish will eat anything.
Man, I know some pike that would eat the crap out of that thing. I promise.
Don't knock Frankenstein until you try it.
I'd love to try it.
I'm telling you what, they will eat that up.
Anyway, we're talking about catching fish on getting confidence in it. This came to mind.
Frankenstein, I love that.
Take it. I'm telling you what, go throw that around in that muddy lake you follow.
No, this is a collector's edition.
That one has caught a bunch of fish actually. That one was in a video, I think. That's probably worth at least $4.
It is.
I need one of those. I know where that would work here.
Well, you could make one out of your own
It's all about developing confidence. And if you're in an area that has a bunch of fish and you're not getting bit, chances are you're either doing something wrong or maybe it's not the right bait for you. But if you take a bait out and you have a lake, you can really put that bait to use and develop that confidence. It becomes that much more valuable to you as a tool down the road. It may be 3 years from now before you find the right time to throw that bait. But
Mm-hmm.
If you've got the confidence in it, that's key.
To me, that's what In-Fisherman did. It gave me confidence as a kid to do something that I had never done, to either have watched that TV show or to have read the article with all of the, here's exactly what you need to go to Mike's Tackle World and get it, and to have the confidence that I'd watched Al go out and do it, to where I'm like, well, I know this is how you're supposed to work it, and this is what it that gave me the confidence as I was growing up to try all the new stuff. And that was an In-Fisherman deal.
Go ahead, Matt. Well,
no, it's all you, Thomas.
One of the things that I think the transition that's happened is there's not a lot of new presentations nowadays. I think I know that there are some things like Frankenstein, or some things that maybe might make their way out. But we've kind of done it all to an extent. Maybe there's a different plastic trailer, a different profile here or there that might get some attention. And now, of course, the big focus on baits is, the jig minnow and things like that. So I don't think that we're breaking ground so much on the bait side anymore. It's still happening to an extent, but it's not like, oh my gosh, you got to try this new thing. When you go to ICAST over the last couple, 3, 4, 5 years, it's been technology. And so as technology advances, baits also kind of adapt to that. And I'm interested on your guys' take here. Is there's been I'm going to use the word concerning change in bait demand, and concerning by saying, is it long term? Is it short term? But everybody wants forward facing sonar applicable lures right now. That seems to be what's the hot ticket on Tackle Warehouse, Fish USA, all these places that are selling that also sell traditional fishing lures. But my opinion personally is it's going to be a trend. I think we're going to see a giant spike. We're in the middle of that giant spike of forward facing sonar applicable lures, and that's what everybody's after. But are we going to get back to the days where a DT10 or the Berkeley Stunna, or pick your poison, whatever you want to say, are those going to become valuable again to the anglers? And if that's the case, are those numbers that people are seeing as the spike and decline of sales and demand, whatever, is that all tournament people? Or is that the In-Fisherman crowd that maybe hasn't fully adopted the forward-facing sonar yet? I'm curious what you think of that. Are we seeing the end of crankbaits? My guess is no.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see the end of it. I definitely think there's trends in the industry. I feel like the spinnerbait kind of went away for a while, and now the last couple of years it has had a resurgence.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, what happens is when there is a relatively new technique or new style of bait that comes out, what we see or what we find is you don't have it in your tackle box. So whether you're the In-Fisherman crowd or whether you're a professional touring angler, you don't have it because it's never really been out. Mm-hmm. And there tends to be kind of a gold rush among the companies to produce a jig head and a minnow, right? Mm-hmm. Whether that's a jig head or whether that's a minnow, the companies are trying to fill that void because they don't have it. And then when they create that product, there's a lot of push towards it, and the more marketing and the more push towards those products tend to sell more products, and it tends to it leads to those anglers who bought those products fishing them because it's new to it. They want to go out and learn this new technique. I do think what you're probably starting to see, even starting around, I would think now and into next year, is a lot of the anglers now have tackle boxes full of various soft plastics, straight-tailed soft jerkbait style plastics, minnows, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think, there'll be a tendency to start gravitating back to baits that have been around for a while, and down the road, somebody might create a crankbait that comes with spinnerbait blades on it, and everyone needs to have a Frankenstein, right? So, from that standpoint, it's definitely somewhat cyclical.
Yes, I think it's totally cyclical.
Perfect. Aren't you doing that with the company that you own, Matt? Aren't you taking this company and you're like, look where we can put the lead on these different, like you've created a whole thing out of very basic components where everybody can't, you're taking a basic concept that's booming right now, and your company is exploding because of it, because you're finding innovative ways to do basic things.
So I do personally think that we still have a lot of untapped baits and styles and techniques that can come along. I personally feel like, and I'm gonna probably make some people upset, but I personally feel like the fishing industry from a tackle standpoint has been somewhat stagnant. I think the idea
Agreed.
was, well, we've got crankbaits. Well, how can we change the crankbait now, and change the lip style, the body style, but it's still kind of a crankbait. I do think that there's still a lot of innovation to be had. The biggest hurdle to that is creating that innovation. It's not cheap, especially for a smaller company, to go try to redesign a hook, and come out with completely different hooks to fit a bait that they've got in this mind that they don't know will work or not, right? So it's an expensive jump, But I think we were in a lucky position with respect to the hover rig, because that kind of started our company, that we didn't create that with forward facing sonar in mind. I still use it much more like a Ned rig. I use it much more to fish like shallow water, fishing rock flats, rock veins where smallmouth are up cruising. That's where I think it shines. But the fact is, it fits the forward facing sonar void as well. And we were in the right place at the right time. Now, having said that, we're working on something right now that I think is ridiculous, and it's ridiculous in terms of a good standpoint. It's not like anything else that's on the market. And
sounds like you need to come up and test it here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I had it out the other day and I caught a pile of fish on it. The first prototypes, we got some tweaks and stuff to make to it, but
is it a frog that looks like a spider?
It's thinking outside the box. It's not a frog, but I do have a frog idea I would love to make. I don't know.
Does it look like a spider? Is it a drop shot weight that's made out of a real rock?
No. Hey, I actually kind of like that idea. The Rocky
Brook?
Rocky Brook. Yeah.
Rocky Brook.
And listen, I lose weights to northern pike all the time on the drop shot, all the time.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what do you guys think about a 24 karat gold drop shot weight?
Not up here. Definitely not up here. Pike like shiny stuff. Pike and raccoons and myself are the same. Like shiny things, like, oh wow, we got to try that.
Thomas, is there still? Are you in touch with tackle companies and stuff to where if there's something that's still featured in Fisherman, they see a spike in their sales, particularly if it's a new musky lure, a new bass lure, to where it still has the draw? And then second half of that question, and then I'll let you go on it, is like, where's the value at now? Magazine, online, TV, like how has that distribution changed? Because In-Fisherman in my mind is magazine and TV, which you hear says, oh, those are the two dinosaur mediums now.
Well, the first part of your question is yes. Anytime a lure or a destination are featured in our magazine, we often hear that has results for people. And we one of the things we do with the television show is we like to include them in an adventure tip. So if we stay at so and so's resort on Lake of the Woods, or Big Cedar at Toledo, whatever, as long as if you mention that in the magazine. I don't know how big a spike they see, but every person we talk to afterwards, like, yeah, we really saw something happen from that. So the second part of that question is, there was a time, I've worked in media for 19 years now, and man, they were pushing digital because magazines are going the way of the dodo. And frankly, that's not happened. And I think the organizations, like, where's Newsweek? You remember Newsweek magazine? Like, gone. Nobody knows where they went because they went fully digital. I think the organizations that adopted the digital component and made that a part of the portfolio as opposed to replacing the print magazine, if you do the two together, they can complement each other. And then I think, honestly, they support each other. So In-Fisherman, when I started here, In-Fisherman's digital footprint was it was existing but not thriving. And we're working on, I would like to say things have turned around quite a bit, but our magazine is full of great writers. Matt Straw, another Matt, big surprise, who worked with Stefan on the feature that we're discussing, is not only a fantastic writer, but he's a great fisherman. And I think that having good writers and recognizable bylines helps with SEO. That helps with people finding our content. So it has to be in association with. And while our numbers are not what they were in the 80s and 90s, they're still very, very strong and hugely successful by modern day magazine statistics. So Bassmaster the same way. It blows my mind the number of magazines that place kicks out in a year. And I don't think that there's any other magazine that can hold a candle to Bassmaster and frankly In-Fisherman in the fishing world, because they do have the byline, they do have the brand recognition for kids. Right now we're at that point where there's a changing of the guard, right? They're the I don't want to say elderly, but the innovators, the original innovators of modern fishing television, writing and media in general are aging out. And it's guys that are our age now that are starting to take the helm of a lot of these organizations. And can we take it into the future and keep it relevant? That's the question. I would like to believe that as long as we stick to our values, and that's not to dismiss tournament fishing, because it's a huge part of In-Fisherman to an extent, but at least appeal to your most common denominator and appeal to the most popular style of fishing within your hemisphere, if you will, and not straying too far from that. That's not to say we're gonna take on covering bass tournaments and change In-Fisherman. No, that's not going to happen. But really, what made us tick from the beginning was our desire. And when I say our, I learned from In-Fisherman, so I want to take that same legacy onto the next generation. So we have to adapt with what's new and relevant. And currently that's electronics and baits that apply to those types of electronics. So yes, things are changing. Are magazines going away? Not in the near future. No, still very powerful part of our organization as a whole. So long answer.
What are the ballpark? I know Bassmaster is always like, magazine goes out to 500,000 people, but it's been 500,000 people since I've started covering Bassmaster, which is like 1998. Is there what is the distribution of In-Fisherman? Is there a ballpark that you guys have a number at? I'd
ballpark. So we have, it's hard to count because we actually have a lot of newsstand sales, which Bassmaster doesn't have that. So, I think our subscription list is, little less than 250,000. But
that's a lot of people.
But you start counting readership, which is one of those. Yeah, once you start, readership is an audit word, right? That how many people read the magazine. Each physical magazine is at least.
But that doesn't count a guy who's walking through the grocery store and picks up the In-Fisherman because it catches his eye and checks out with it. He's still reading it every month.
Right. So that does kind of change who's involved there, but yeah, it is still vibrant, and we spend a lot of time making sure that content inside the pages of In-Fisherman magazine are relevant to any angler today. So that's why you got Matt Stefan in those pages,
keeping you relevant, Matt.
Well, I think that
was a compliment, but
I think that's one of the great things about In-Fisherman. You've talked a little bit earlier on the show about like the role of tournament anglers, and I like I said, I view In-Fisherman as a educational publication, and from that standpoint, I feel like I don't think covering tournaments would be a good thing to put In-Fisherman, but I think having tournament fishermen and top level guides and people that you would consider experts in that field for that technique is what brings a lot of value to it. Not to knock other magazines, I don't even know if Fishing Facts is around, but I remember one of my uncle's greatest feats that he'd always talk about at the big annual Christmas party was that he submitted an article to Fishing Facts, and Fishing Facts put it in there, and he considered himself an expert because of it. And the guy couldn't catch any fish, right? Like it was almost like a joke to him. But you don't get that with In-Fisherman. In-Fisherman is you take experts in the field and you put it into print. So from that standpoint, I think if you were to talk to most top level tournament bass anglers, they would consider themselves an expert. Maybe not in every technique in every field, but I think they can bring value to an educational perspective. And that's where, I think In-Fisherman plays such a valuable role.
Here's a modern perspective for you. Go ahead.
I said, what do you got? I know I saw you smiling and reaching for something.
So my kids my daughter is going to be 15 in 2 months. My son is 16. And so they're fully integrated into the modern digital age. Our youth is, I see my daughter reading books from time to time, but if Tommy's going to look something up, he's on his phone. If he's, wants information, they go visit the Googles, but there's still something about being included in a print magazine that even that generation finds very valuable. And so this was that I've whenever I write something for In-Fisherman, I try to include something of my kids, and maybe it's for me, but I fish with them a lot, and they're good looking kids and they know how to fish and hold a bass. Well, my daughter is right there on the cover of the 2024 Bass Guide, and that meant a lot to her. And I don't know if I have any here, but that Kayak Fishing Fun magazine I told you guys about, that's my daughter on the cover. So there's something valuable. I think it's built in, right? Like books are always going to be a thing, and magazines are going to be a thing. Their friends are super impressed by that. So I kind of get a kick out of that. So that generation still sees value in hard copy. And I think the human psyche likes something tangible. One of the best compliments, Matt, this is kind of to play off of your comment a minute ago. One of the best compliments a writer or an editor can get is, man, I got a stack of those magazines on the back of my toilet. I'm like, well, I know you have nothing better to do at that point in time than to read. So that means something. I'm being facetious, but honest. Like, if that's where you have time to read, that's where you have time to read. And these magazines are still very well put together. They're full of good information, and it's relevant. So anybody that maybe hasn't picked up an In-Fisherman magazine lately, I'd encourage you to do so and let us know. Is there something we're missing? Is there something we're hitting on all cylinders? Are we on the right track? So I would say I want us to move forward. I want us to stay relevant. I want us to make sure we're engaged in modern and evolving techniques, because ultimately we need to be a conduit to that fishing community as how do we gather information from the pros who are testing that on tournament waters and bringing it down into the fishing community. So I kind of feel like there's a relationship between everybody. We have we're not going to cover tournaments, but at the very least, if we're taking information created or garnered out of those events and talking with guys like Matt, talking with guys like a Ross Grothy in the tournament world, or Jason Shakurit and Jay Shakurit, those are relevant voices today. So how do we take what they know, what they've experienced on the top touring trails of tournament fishing, and deliver that information? That's our commission. That's what we're called to do. And I'm going to make sure that we do that. And it's not just me. We've got great people here. Doug Stang, he's still in the office, industry titan, going to be 75 this year and fishes more than I do. Like, the guy's on the water all the time. And Rob Newman is our managing editor of In-Fisherman magazine. Todd Seisner, another guy that we all know, has been in the business a long time as a publisher here. So we've got a great staff that cares a lot about the product before it hits the shelves. And I can assure you it's clean and it's full of good information that I consider relevant. And gosh, we'd like to hear if you think so too. And that's not a shameless plug.
That's good stuff. All right, I have a challenge, Matt, Stefan.
Okay.
And I would like to put a signed, not signed. We're not allowed to legally sign money, I don't think. I'd just like to put a $100 bill on it. And the winner then gets to pick any lure out of the other angler's arsenal. And you can only protect 5 of your lures. So you can say these are 5 that you can't touch, but outside of that, we get to pick, and we get to do it live on air. And here it is. So on infisherman.com, I just came up with this because I did not know this still existed growing up. And I would just like to let everyone know, like, this is not an affiliation with In-Fisherman or whatsoever. Like, BTL is not like, oh, hey, now we're sponsored by In-Fisherman. This is just a show that we're doing about In-Fisherman because I love In-Fisherman. 100%.
Yeah, we don't sponsor anything.
No, not at all. So $100, you only get to protect 5 lures. This runs through December 31st, 2024, because that's the end of the period. So In-Fisherman had a magazine every year. They'd come out with the Master Angler Awards. And they had a catch and release and a kept. We're only going to do the catch and release version of this. If you go onto the website under Master Anglers, there's an entry form and I've always wanted to turn in a Master Angler Award, and I never actually have. It's broken down into regions. Here you see it here. And then over here is the species with the catch and release number of inches that it must be to qualify. And then you have your rules. You get a, what do you get now? You get a certificate, Thomas?
I am not too far away from a patch. So you get a certificate and a patch. I'm going to come right back with a patch. So keep going.
Okay. So you still get the patch that you could put on the jersey?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I'm going to go find it. Stand by. I'll be right back.
Listen, this is every species that, In-Fisherman covers. So like in region 1, where Matt is, like a largemouth bass must be 22 inches.
That's big. That's
yes,
big in my neck
it's
of the
called
woods.
a Master Angler for a reason, Matt.
What is it? I can't read the screen right now. What is it? What is it?
My region,
in
it's
Oklahoma?
24. That's a big ass largemouth. Like a smallmouth bass is 20 inches in region 1 and 2. A bluegill is 11 inches in both of our regions.
Not a lot of those up here.
Yeah.
Here you go, Matt.
Hold on. Let me get back to this. Oh my gosh. Yes, we're totally in. So you get the Master Angler patch, and then is there also a species patch?
There might be. I'm not entirely sure.
My thing is like
that.
if I turn in like 6 Master Angler Awards, will I get 6 patches?
Well, you can only do 2 per species per year. So
no, but like if I do different species, like we're only just going to do our biggest per species. But if I do 6 different species, I'll get credit for all 6. Okay.
Yep.
So here's what we're doing, Matt.
Patches,
Between now and then, let's have a contest, and we have to submit the form and the picture. Who can catch the most Master Angler Award fish, regardless of species, but you can only have like one of each species.
Why just one? We're limited at 2. Why not go with 2?
Okay, we could do 2. You're screwed on the crappie, by the way.
Well, I was going to say, I think that benefits you, but I got more species to chase up here.
You do, but I also travel a lot.
It's together the number of species, right? So
the number of the number of turned in Master Angler Awards that are granted in the catch and release department between me and Matt Stefan at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm all about this.
$100.
I think you should open it up to the viewers too, and if somebody beats us, they can choose a bait from our tackle boxes as well.
Well, okay. Now, how about we provide? I can do I'll do a Sunline, a Spro, and a Gamakatsu prize pack, valued at a total of $500. Can you do that with your sponsors? Can you throw in some fine meats?
We'll put together a big prize pack if they beat us.
So, okay. Now hold on here. So is this going to be a prize pack or a couple or one?
No, we both. If someone if whoever has,
because I'll throw in a hat.
Oh, you'll throw in a hat too. So I want whoever has the most Master Angler Awards between now and December 31st, 2024. That's recognized by In-Fisherman, not submitted. That like is recognized by In-Fisherman when it's all said and done. If whoever has the most, let's just do me and you, regardless. Just because that'll be fun. But then whichever BTL listener has the most Master Angler patches from May 29th, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, each of us, Matt Stefan and Matt Pangrek, me, will cobble together a $500 prize pack each from our current sponsors, along with a exclusive Richardson 112 In-Fisherman hat. And then you can make a guest appearance on BTL in January of 25.
So this is a good idea. And let's be clear here. This Master Angler entry form, it's pretty self-explanatory, but so we know what's going on at the very bottom of this, there's a section that says, would you like to share more about your catch with the In-Fisherman community? So it probably would be important that to be considered for this contest, they would need to note that they heard this on BTL at the very bottom there.
Right here. Would you like to share more about your catch? Yes.
Yep. We're trying to do better than
I heard about this on BTL.
Yeah,
that's right.
Then let them know you prefer me over Panger.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's super basic. It's just on In-Fisherman. There's all sorts of requirements. Like you have to take the photo with the link and all that stuff. So, I mean, it has to be by the book. And then I can, and then, in December, you can let me know. And then I could check with you to see like, who has the most.
Well, and so those come directly to me, all those entries. So I'm able to keep tabs on that, and I work with one of our guys here to kind of keep track of that stuff. So we're actually in process of kind of restructuring the Master Angler program.
Oh, is this not a good time to do this?
No, it's a great time actually. The more entries we have, the better, because it would help us track things if they make sure they put, heard about this on BTL.
Yeah, 100% heard about this on BTL. If you're in the Western region, you're probably screwed. Sorry about that.
And just to be clear, Matt, I believe I've got 2 Master Angler awards already from when I was like 13.
Yeah, those don't count.
That doesn't count.
Those doesn't count. It's between now and then. I've never
I could probably have my mod dig up the patches somewhere.
Yeah. These are they might be updated from this, but that's pretty cool. We have a whole box of them here, and we have a process of delivery. So yes,
this is just a little side deal, and I'll remind guys of it as the year goes on. I need to write this down. Let me write this down. How do I have? You got a pen, Stefan?
You got to keep your notepad handy as a radio show host.
I've got the notepad. It's the pen.
What do you want me to record?
Just what the rules are of this thing.
Rules. Who has more Master Angler awards?
Yes, but then as long as you put it catch and release. Yeah, not kept. Has to be catch and release. Although I am a fan of selective harvest. But we'll just do the catch and release. Oh, I keep showing all the screens. All right, but then down at the bottom, you have to put in, BTL, so then we can separate it.
Yep, very easy.
And Panger, if you catch a big one, say, if you go up to New York and catch a 20+ inch smallie, if that's what it is in that zone,
that counts
in that zone. It doesn't count in your Oklahoma zone.
I'm not sure about that.
Or can you just do 2 fish per species regardless of what zone?
Pretty sure it's 2 fish per species. So
yeah, I'm going to be like up north for a month, Matt.
I know how you take this stuff pretty seriously.
Yeah,
I'll see pictures of you. Yeah, you'll be up there. You're probably doing crappie stuff with Sobe, and then you're gonna go catch river giants with Bart over on the Mississippi.
No. I'm doing it all myself here. But the crappie I got on lockdown in Oklahoma. But I'm also just doing like a fun week up north this year.
And hey, Matt, listen, as one of the regulators of this program, I am not going to participate naturally. However, I do know some good red ear sunfish spots. I know some good perch spots, sauger, and saugeye. So you could probably stack your deck a little bit.
I know, but so does Matt. Matt Stefan knows all the holes too. And plus he's close to the river. Everything lives on the river. He's going to have 2 smallmouth buffalo Master Angler awards.
There are some Magnum saugeyes in pool 4 and 5. Magnum.
Yeah, but remember what I said earlier? Like the whole walleye species is a mythical beast to my family.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't happen.
Everything on here is like how you measure it, what you have to measure it with, what the photo has to be. Like it's a process to submit one of these.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk a little bit briefly here about the rules of this program, because there has been some in recent years, a little bit of confusion. So within the program, you do need to submit your catch within 30 days. Anything submitted after January 31, 2025 for the previous year will be rejected. So also, these fish need to be submitted with 1 or 2 photos, and I would suggest 2 with this form of what you guys got going on. 1 needs to be of the fish on a ruler. So we definitely there's a funny story we maybe don't have time to tell, but we did have we call it bluegill gate. there was a group of people cheating. They submitted the same fish like 10 times. Anyways, so take a good hero shot. Make sure you got a good picture with the fish on a ruler.
Could you end up in In-Fisherman? Should it be a really good hero shot?
If it's a great picture, a lot of times it gets selected to appear in a magazine when we do the year-end analysis. So make sure you're taking good photos, a good hero shot. You can submit 2 photos with the form, and do it within the 30 days. We are a little flexible on accepting submissions beyond the 30-day rule.
Do it within 30 days. Now we got to be. I know Stefan will push that thing to 31, 32. I know how he is.
I might have to buy a bigger bump board to put in the boat. I'll just bring my musky one.
Well, if you got a musky one, that's handy. But again, if you need help with this, Matt, you're like 5 hours away or less. So you're welcome to use my bump board anytime.
Are these current sponsors of the Master Angler Award?
Yes, there is a prize package that we give out.
Oh my gosh, look, they're
numbers
both of our sponsors. I literally just found this. So like I've got AFCO on the show and you're Berkeley Abu, right, Matt?
Yeah, 100%. I honestly, I don't think you're going to break. I think you'll catch 2 and that's it, Matt.
Oh, that's total BS. Where am I going? I need to stop showing.
You're going to catch 2 big crappies and that's it.
No, okay. So here are the species. We got time to go through the species. I don't know what anybody's timetable is. If anyone has to go,
no, I'm fine.
But we're in the Master Anglers now.
I'm into this now.
All right, I can tell you right now that I think I might be able to nail all of these, except for the salmonoids. Largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass. 22 inches, 20 inches, and 18 inches, except in my region, it's 24, 20, and 20. So that's how it kind of deals. Like it's got broken down into different regions. Those are big bass, but I should be able to handle that. And then the white bass and the striped bass.
He might have you on that one, Matt, the white stripes.
No. Have you guys ever heard of a lake called Lake Texoma?
Oh yeah. We actually filmed there.
Exactly. I mean,
how big for the white bass?
White bass for your region,
you can't read it.
Which is region. Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can zoom in.
Yeah, region. Okay, yeah. Region 1 for white bass is capped as 2.5 pounds. Minimum length is 17 inches.
Can we read that?
I think I can do 7. There's a pretty good white bass population, like on Winnebago.
Yeah.
I might be able to do that.
How big? How many pounds is a? Oh, so a striper is like averages like a keeper, 28 pounds on a striper. That's a big striper even for Texoma. 22 pounds for you, Matt. On the
I don't even have a place to go catch an 18-inch spotted bass.
Yeah, right.
Well, where do you go on the? Do you have any BPT or tournaments left on?
so he's going to stop his tournament fishing. Hey, I got to take a picture of this fish on a butt board in the middle of competition.
He's practicing
I will.
spotted bass in the BPT, and he
challenge?
catches an 18-inch spot. Boom.
How is an 11-inch master angler bluegill like that? I don't even feel like they get that big.
Up north, it's rare. There are, and I know a couple lakes that has them around here, but they're not many. That's a mythical beast. But farm pond, like the Midwest is farm pond city. You can catch big bluegills out of that.
And listen, you guys know what the Bassmaster Open schedule is. Should I be traveling through and you're a BTL listener and you think I could knock a couple of these Master Angler Awards off at a nearby farm pond or maybe a little private lake, I could just dip in there and catch me a 14-inch bluegill. I mean, Matt at basszone.com or at Matt Pangrek on Instagram, I'll entertain offers.
Listen to this guy.
He's already playing low ball.
Well, here's the reality, guys. I think with Matt, with some of your travel schedule, I'm looking at some of these. The toughest one I think would be a striper.
Yes.
Everything else is doable.
I'm going to have an issue with the muskie. I'm going to have an issue with the northern pike. I think I can. A sauger is a 50-50 for me. I'll definitely have an issue with a walleye, a 30-inch walleye.
That's solid. I mean,
that's a big walleye.
These are solid, like a 40-inch.
It's master angler, Stefan. It's not average angler or slightly above average angler. It's master angler. You have to earn the damn patch.
And a 46-inch muskie is no slouch either.
I think I can do that on the home river here.
I've got like a couple weeks to knock out the flathead because after they get out of those holes, that's a big flathead, a 42-inch flathead.
Listen, Matt, the Mississippi River is your best bet for like 90% of these, not the bluegill.
And you live on the Mississippi River, Stefan.
I do not live on the Mississippi
Yes, you
River.
do. You've won $100,000 on it.
I fish it once a year.
True or false? You've won $100,000 on the Mississippi River.
I've won more than that over time.
I guess technically I just won $25,000 on the Mississippi.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
I was gonna say you're pretty good there too.
Now.
Brown trout, coho, chinook.
How come there's no sturgeon on there?
We've actually had that
out of the water.
I don't think there's gar either. Yeah, there's not. We've had a few people bring that up. You kind of get into there's nothing wrong with, we don't like calling them rough fish here. They're not.
Well, carp's on here.
You get carp.
34-inch carp, that's going to take
carp.
away from some valuable practice time. I already know that.
Yeah,
I think I can catch that too.
Yeah, that chain pickerel is a goofy one. Like we don't have any of those even within Region 1, really.
Yeah.
Is that the ones that you catch like down in Florida and stuff that look like?
Yeah, I'm incorrect. Region 1 goes all the way to the northeast. So like anytime you're out east, you can bump into chain pickerel.
So I mean, how like in depth do you guys get? I mean, I could maybe submit a northern pike as a chain pickerel. I mean, are you guys really evaluating those pictures?
So Rob Newman is our managing editor, has I believe a doctorate in fisheries management. So it will not
good luck on that.
him.
You ain't putting a largemouth into spotted bass.
That's right.
You're already getting all kinds of help in the comments.
Had a rough patch on his tongue, though. That's a spot.
We'll
so Canada's in on this too. Like Canada, I know sometimes Canada gets left out of the BTL stuff. Like we're all in with Canada as well. So if you're up in Saskatoon listening,
this might make some good video content.
This would be and a follow-up show because there's a lot of big talk going on right now. I'll be honest with you. And you guys got a lot to do for your careers. So if you're gonna like, hey, this might be a keeper northern, you're gonna have to take time out of your. Okay, I know guys that will break a northern off at a tournament because they don't want to deal with it. Matt, are you willing to sacrifice good tournament time to land a 40-inch northern?
I'm telling you what, if I have the opportunity to catch one of these, even in a BPT event, I'm gonna do it.
Dude, Thomas, one of the reasons I have you on for In-Fisherman is because if it's a catchable fish, I don't care when it is, I'm catching it. I can't tell you how many times in a tournament an alligator gar has come up and I've been like looking for a fluke or a jerk or something to try to get that thing to hit. I once chased a paddlefish down on a rattle trap in a BFL for 35 minutes.
Hey, I caught a flathead catfish. Well, I was in the middle of winning that Mississippi River event last year. That took me quite some time to land, and I enjoyed every bit of it and probably got more exposure out of the pictures of me holding that flathead catfish than I did the tournament win.
There's something about that. I can tell you, personally, I have figure eighted a keeper bass by the boat because a muskie came up and tried to eat it.
Here.
And 2 years ago, my son had a really big muskie take his bass that we needed for a tournament. We were fishing a derby, and he tried to catch that thing for about 20 minutes and finally let go. But I think that when you do that sort of thing from a media perspective, yeah, we're focused on bass. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a great thing. But it kind of it just sparks that inner, what's a carnivore, like, ooh, I just want to see this thing in the boat.
Hunter gatherer. This is important. So Samuel said, don't forget that P likes the grayer. Bobby Carson said that's grayer. Listen, In-Fisherman, and this is about building relationships, having fun, and legally catching large fish. If you develop relationships with other people who want to take Matt, I encourage you to reach out to your listeners, to your fans, to try to knock fish off of it. It's about having fun. It's about catching fish, and it's about experience. And if that means connecting with another angler who's an expert at lake trout or Chinook salmon or muskie fishing, I am all for that. I want you to reach out and make these experiences for all these species with guys, because that's what we read about in Fisherman.
Well, and guess what? I'm going to complement that with, we're also, all of us are bone collectors to an extent. Your room that you have there, Matt, I love the cool trophies you have. Matt, you both have neat rooms that represent a lot about what's going on. And they're having something that indicates, some level of success. If it's an Elite Series trophy, a BPT trophy, if it's the St. Jude's deal, which is a fantastic event. We all want to have that representation of that memory, and that's what these are in my mind. Is you have something like this on the wall, you have that certified certificate from In-Fisherman Master Angler. When the committee approves your catch and you have done what you went out to do, you guys would love, and it's probably worth some level of interview down the road, but we still have people send in paper applications. And there's one gentleman in particular, I believe lives in Pennsylvania, that writes, and I mean writes, on the yellow legal pad pages of details of his catch each time, and the man sends it certified mail. So this Master Angler program means a lot to In-Fisherman readership, but it also scratches the competition itch just a little bit. It's not a tournament, but there is that element kind of therein. And I think if you're able to take something home, put it on your wall, put it in your man cave, in your basement or whatever, this is pretty cool. Or maybe iron it onto a jersey. I don't know where this would fit, but it could look good on your jersey mats, both of you. So
I don't have a jersey. I would wear a Master Angler jersey.
Wrap your boat.
You don't have a jersey. You're not fishing in a jersey this year?
No, I've never fished in a jersey, dude. I
Really?
use the safety pins and I safety pin the Bass logo onto my shirt. I've done it from the beginning.
I like that though. Do the Bassmaster badge and then you put this one underneath it.
Oh yeah, you're gonna also have days off of your BPT this year to where you can just go on a freaking Master Angler quest.
I like where this is going. This is you know what?
Hit all of them in a year?
I don't think so. I think we have a handful of anglers who have completed the list, but as far as in 1 year, no, we don't. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's a lot,
dude. Matt, I've also got an idea.
Oh boy.
I think about the content if you took off on like in a week-long quest. Like, here's what we do. We do this thing between me and you through, you can't do it on that. How badass would it be to try to knock everything off in a week? All of the Master Angler awards, and we just go madhouse. Like, I drive while you sleep while I drive. We freaking go across the country for a week and try to knock every Master Angler off the list.
Do you know how hard it is to catch a 30-inch walleye? I mean, let's be real.
See, I think that's one of the easier ones on there potentially.
Well, if you go to the right place, you go to Oahe or Sakakawea, you might be able to pull it off.
That's why we take the whole uncut angling 39 hours where we have 1 week to do it and we're driving and sleeping at the same time. Like, there's
here's what you call this. This is the In-Fisherman Master Angler Grand Slam Tour is what that would become.
Dude, are you down for that, Stefan? Instead of doing this and stretching this thing out, are you good? And we could listen. I got a mobile studio. We could do BTLs every single night based on where we are, and between your fan base and the BTL listener base. Like, dude, we need to pick a week. Like, what would be the best month of the year to do this, Thomas?
August.
You think so?
Well, I mean, just thinking about when everything is in predictable locations. Muskies are pretty predictable in August. All the bass species are pretty. Now here, spotted bass are not.
I'd say late October.
Late
if you're
October.
Talking my neck of the woods, like
we're talking to get everything knocked out. Oh, I bet October wouldn't be a bad month.
October can be awesome here, especially. Can be awesome. Everything's eating.
I'm the bigger issue, I think, is we would have to really read up on the In-Fisherman articles to figure out how to catch like a Chinook or like,
I've got that dialed on. Manson does that up at Thousand Islands in the river.
Well, Matt, you just worked with Matt Straw. Matt Straw is one of the finest salmon and trout anglers we have on staff, period. So there are resources, and I think there's a resource connection to this where if you're able to connect with somebody along the way to go, after species XYZ, you have a plethora of resources at your fingertips.
Would the bluegill and red ear sunfish in October be difficult?
Yeah, I mean, you can catch them still, but like those big ones are easiest to catch right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, this sounds great, but are we going to get hung up on a species and all of a sudden it's going to be 8 days trying to catch an 11-inch bluegill?
What I think you need to do is you go after the list and you got to give yourself a limit of a day or two per. And then
we could definitely do 70% of the list and then Hail Mary the really, really tough ones.
I mean, I think in a week, 70% would be pretty tough too, but I am down for that challenge, Panger. And I think we could make it happen. We would have the key would be choosing the lakes where you could potentially knock out a couple species and that one lake. So you're not spending it driving.
Yep. That time of year, flathead catfish would be rough as well.
Well, I'm looking at spotted bass too. Like A 20-inch spot? That's a huge spot.
Yeah, but we could go down to Lanier that time of the year and knock out.
We pound it out fast.
Yeah, but here's what I'm saying. If you're trying to knock this out in a week, I mean, you're looking at 10,000 miles on your car.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, all right.
But is that do we have to be same zone, or can we do different zones?
Like,
different
are we going to be doing it independently and working together, or are we doing it together?
Oh, I thought we'd be doing it together. It'd be a lot.
That's
more
what
fun
I was thinking.
Together.
Yeah, where we're doing it together.
Yeah.
But just because that doesn't mean we can't do like different species in a day, like where we could split up to be like, okay, I'm going to go try to catch the largemouth, you catch the smallmouth, and then we both have the GoPros running.
We could. It would be more fun to be in the same boat.
Yeah, for most of it. But I mean, we're also trying to achieve something here.
Well, that is true. We can figure this
we could
out.
definitely that time of the year do the blue cat and the channel cat. Like, I know guys that are all in on that late fall, the shad bite, where they start feeding up for the winter.
Mm-hmm.
We could knock that out at the James River. The place has got giant blue cats.
What about a hybrid? You think we could do a 46-inch muskie?
Yeah, I think we could do that for sure.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, it's not easy, but that's a reasonable size.
That's the most obtainable out of them all in my region, I think.
Smallmouth
is easy.
No. In my region, a 15-inch black or white crappie that'll take about 10 minutes.
The tiger muskie would be a complicated one to get because there are a handful of lakes in the Twin Cities that stock them, but other than that, are there some lakes up north in Wisconsin that have
Virginia
tiger?
has
There's
them.
a few lakes that have a pretty decent population. They've stopped, as far as I know, they've stopped stocking them, but there's a few lakes where they are naturally reoccurring pretty good.
Well, a 38 is not a hard tiger to achieve. Like those are a couple 3-4 years old at that point.
That time of year on the Great Lakes, could you do
a lot?
Well, I'm just thinking about the salmon. Like, is everything available then? Like, the brook trout's going to be sketchy because that might be like a fly out deal, like a 1-day fly out deal.
Yeah, I don't know.
Colorado or something. I don't know how we're going to do the brook trout, but like a steelhead, a brown, a coho, a king, and a lake trout.
I mean, I think they all come in shallower, I think, in the fall.
That time of year, though?
Yeah.
In the Milwaukee Harbor is a hot spot for multiple.
Oh yeah. What's his name? I've had him on the show. He's the salmon dude. He works for Strike King. Is that who it is?
Yeah,
he's a wizard at that stuff. Like that's his. He's like the. So he's like the Michael Jordan of like that type of stuff for the salmon whites.
What you need to be able to do is combine as many of these species into single locations as possible. And if there are a couple outer liars that are, there are brook trout that are not river run brookies. Like there are places to catch them. And if I'm not wrong, I think like Gussie Ballpark has some lake stock brook trout. So
yeah, there's some really good brook trout spots up in Ontario.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have to fly into Alberta. They are available.
Oh, I'm getting people sending me pictures of master anglerfish already.
That's awesome. This could be fun. And listen, if there's going to be a content angle, there's a story to be told about that. And let's say you guys do this, like the magazine's going to want that story.
A master angler quest, where we do kind of like a little timeline story for In-Fisherman out of it.
I mean, yes,
potential there. I mean, I'm not asking you to commit to it now. But I'm just saying.
So we do a magazine piece on this annually. So I think that it adds a nice complement to that. But as you understand, the magazine cycle is 6 months ahead of time. So we'd be looking at 2025 if you're able to get through this year. But I think
what's your schedule like in October, Stefan?
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know, but I mean, it's definitely a lot lighter. In the fall. For sure.
Bass Pro Tour schedule.
Well, I don't have any tournament. Well, there's
guys
potential for team events, but we won't know that for until after the season.
They're still doing those. I'm just kidding. They're live. You can watch those live now. It's part of their expanded coverage. So you're in though.
100% I'm in. I'm more worried about you backing out. You're the one that's got all the busy schedule.
I'm not backing out. I'm looking at it. I got I think I'm going to Japan the very beginning of October, and then I've got we can't do it in August because I'm going to Scotland. Oh, by the way, if anybody knows anything about Scotland, I've always wanted to go fish Loch Ness. Where Courtney and I are going to go look for Loch Ness and fish Loch Ness in Scotland.
You know there are mega northern pike over there.
No, I did not.
I don't know that would work for master angler, but it might be a trump card you could pull when you say you caught like a 53-pound northern pike.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, you better date if you catch some big ones. You better date those photos. I don't want you submitting those in our challenge.
Are we still doing the challenge even if we decide to do the team?
I mean, I think
there has to be some of that.
We can still do that. Okay, so Sarah's on the instant feedback, and she said you've got the U.S. Open. That'll put you out west.
Yeah, does that do much for us?
I don't know. When is the U.S. Open? I feel like it's right after Lake U.S. Open.
It's usually like the 15th, isn't it?
Yeah, hold on. Schedule. Hold on. I see the tournament. I don't see the actual dates of it though.
I love how my wife is on here providing schedule information.
Rules, articles, merch, contact events. I'm assuming Lake Havasu, Lake Mead, October 14th through 16th.
Got giant red ears in it though.
Dude. So October 14th through 16th. So that puts the week of like there's an OU plays South Carolina on the 19th of October.
Wait. You're planning around football games right now?
I mean, it is SEC.
Roll Tide.
No, so I'm good with if that gets done the 16th, then you hang around after that. Then we could start it at Havasu on the 18th and do like the 18th through the 25th.
Well, we could probably knock out the smallmouth awards right at Havasu or at Mojave.
Yeah. Or Havasu. Wait, aren't there giant striper around there too? Like in Lake Pleasant and all that stuff too? Could we knock out the striper out west?
There's also tiger muskies down there. I forgot about this. There's some giant tigers down in the south.
Colorado. Isn't there Colorado full of them too? Hit them on the way back to Matt's crappie hole.
Oh, yeah. And then we could go back through and hit. Hold on. Let me.
What? Horse Thief Basin Lake? I've never heard of that. Have you guys heard of that?
What state's that in?
That's Arizona. So there's a weird thing. I've not been able to take advantage of this, but there is a tiger muskie fishery out west in Washington State. Actually, it's world class. There are like those giant big bellied sloppy suckers that live up there. They're just so big they look funny. But yeah, there's some New Mexico and Arizona tiger muskies going on. I mean, that you're down there. I don't know. I think it'd be tough, but I mean, you're definitely taking time out of what you're doing to get after.
So that would be region 3. Let me zoom in here. If we start out there, because I'd have to go across the country. Yeah, I've done that before. It'd be worth it. It'd make for a good story. So that would all be region 3 then.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a 20-inch smallmouth, a 37-inch striper, an 11-inch bluegill, a 13-inch red ear. We could definitely knock those out. Dude, we could catch a striper on Mead. We could go dump in on Mead and go down into Vegas Wash and get them schooling down there because they're not big. They're just freaking ridiculously long.
See, I don't ever remember catching a big one there.
Oh, yeah, dude. I freaking got schooled twice the last time I was there. I mean, they're like that big around, but they're like.
I tell you, it would make for the drive back from that event way more entertaining.
Yep.
Versus just 26 hours of drive time.
Oh, here's what I could do. I could drive back to Oklahoma. I could fly out to Vegas. You could pick me up there. We could knock the stuff out with your boat. Then you could come back. We could do the southeast or southwest part, like the Oklahoma, Texas, that area out of my boat. And then we could head up north.
And then you could fly home from there.
And then I could fly home from there.
That sounds good.
Oh, that time of year? We can knock the largemouth out in Oklahoma. 100%. Like we could probably do that in like really quick. A 22 inch largemouth, a 24 inch largemouth is what it would be.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. We could knock a 24 inch largemouth out. Really. Like I'm very confident we could.
I think we could knock the smallmouth and muskie out in the same day.
And then we would already have the bluegill.
Well, I mean, I'm talking 4. I guess if we only need 1, we could do that real fast, I think.
I definitely think if you're going to do a team thing, you ought to pick a species or two that kind of work collectively, like your stripers and muskies, where, get one on the board, did it. You can only submit it under one name. So I guess you'll have to paper, rock, scissors, who gets to submit it.
That's what I'm saying. I think if we do this, we just plan it, and then we still have the contest for all of the listeners. Whoever has the most that they put BTL in, but then we just plan Master Angler Week.
Yeah.
Nostalgia Master Angler Week. Once the season's already over and everyone's in hunting and it's kind of that no man's land where everyone wants to is excited for fishing again.
The red ear thing is especially smart being down there because that's arguably the best red ear population in the country of big ones, and a 13-incher, that's a hammer red ear. So,
and we've got to pass someplace you could catch a brook trout out there on the way back, right? Like, could we go up through like Colorado or?
I wonder what that is.
I mean, I would think there's got to be.
I've never seen an 18-inch brook trout. Well, what Mercer does shows with brook trout, like gigantors, but I think that's like secret Narnia land. Canada. Yeah, that's like Narnia land.
Yeah, but he may accommodate you on that. And again, check with Gussie. He'll know some brook trout fisheries up there. There's quite a few in Ontario, I think. This is kind of fun. I'm excited to see this unfold. So make sure you do it.
No, we're kind of committed now, aren't we?
Yeah. Now we're in. This
is a week the right time frame? Like, can you get off a week? It's like it'd be like a tournament week. Like it would be chaos. Now we wouldn't have to have a boat. So there might be a couple species where we hop on a plane and go jump in with someone else and knock it out. It doesn't have to be out of our boats.
No, I think we need to sit down and look at it and plan a route and figure out, whether we're flying, whether we're taking a boat, and if we're taking
it's going to be everything.
Well, it might be, but what I'm saying is you got to plan out, okay, we're going to hit these lakes, then jump on a plane to here, maybe another plane to here, and then jump back, get the boat, and then finish up here and here.
Yeah.
It's going to be whirlwind. So the question is, how many species are there? Like before we start, we're going to have a over-under on how many we actually accomplish.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 species.
The other thing to consider, you have the Milwaukee Harbor option. That's generally, I think, really good in spring, but in fall, there's a thing that goes on there too. But, you could probably, if you guys are in the Northeast somewhere, get on a charter boat. We've got a large connection with the Lake Ontario Captains Association, where you could probably spend half a day on a half-day trip and cross off Coho. I don't know about Chinook. I don't know how to catch those things, but you steelhead especially, lake trout probably. So you could knock 2 or 3 of those out on a charter. On the
yellow perch, smallmouth.
Let's see that yellow perch. That one could be tough.
Good God, 15-inch yellow perch.
I know where there are some big ones, but you may have to wrap up this whole effort during ice fishing.
We can't. We got to do it during a week.
I know it scares you guys. But
wait, does northern Maine? I know that there's an absolute insane population of jumbo yellows in Maine. Will they have ice by the third week of October?
Not really. I think the ice.
Oh, we
is
could go to
catching in the
Simcoe. Simcoe, you got passport?
Me? Yeah, we're good. I can get across the border.
I've got a passport.
Stuff them in a suitcase. Leech Lake is going to have a lot of those too. So there's a big perch in Leech.
You know how big a 24-inch rainbow trout is? That's a good one.
Yeah, but you got steelhead there, right?
Yeah. So rainbow trout / steelhead. So that's just an average.
Yeah, that's an average steelhead. That'd be a piece of cake on a charter trip. You'd probably catch 10 of those.
I do think it should just be us though, Matt. Like I don't think we should have a guide with us or a charter boat or anything. Like I think half the fun of it would be us trying to figure out how to catch steelhead.
That would be dramatic.
Yeah, that would definitely.
You got a place to put some downriggers on that bass boat of yours?
That would see. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm going with the In-Fisherman, learning, making connections with people. I think to make this happen, we're going to have to jump in some other people's boats. We knock out the ones we can knock out, but I think we're going to have to rely on the angling community to help us get this done. And in response, bring in more viewers that are following it because they feel connected to it.
I don't have a problem if we're talking rules and your effort here. Having a couple guides along the way, I think makes sense because let's be honest, most of the angling community is not equipped to get out and catch every one of these different species.
Yeah, no.
And
plus, I also have a show called Guide Day that runs every other Friday, so that's would be helpful for that.
Man, if you want to talk about a central location where you can cross off 70% of these species, like back to the upper Midwest and the availability of multiple species, you can get a lot of those crossed off here. And there are places, I don't know about stripers, but white bass all over. Devil's Lake is probably one of the greatest white bass fisheries in the country, and that's North Dakota.
Oh, isn't there a Dakota that has massive perch in it?
Yeah, isn't that Devil's Lake with giant perch too?
Yes.
And Big Northern.
Big Northern, walleyes, plenty of walleyes. And my buddy Johnny Candle up that way knows that lake extremely well. Be happy to pitch in. He's been a lifetime In-Fisherman contributor too. So lots of fish on that place. That is a hugely overlooked resource. But it's North Dakota. It's a long ways from everything.
I kind of feel like we got to keep it to one region. So we do like region 1, and then next year.
But you aren't going to catching the red ear is going to be tough in this region. That's not 13. What is it for our region here? Yeah, that red ear for region 1 that's still 13 inches. My opinion, I think it's open to all regions, and you're not going to catch a suitable spot in region 1. I don't think.
Yeah, there's only a few lakes in Missouri we could Table Rock would be in there. We might be able to get an 18-incher on Table Rock.
It's got to be 20. Yeah, that's a long. Yeah, 18 inches is a big spotted bass, bro.
Yeah,
a Kentucky spot.
Yeah, but those you're right. Those
spots grow out, not long. Like a Coosa spot, you can get a 20-incher, but
yeah, and at Lanier too. There's a lot of 20s in Lanier.
All right, let's dial in the details of this as we. Holy cow, we're an hour and 2.5 hours into this thing.
Yeah, but so entertaining.
I'm entertained. I hadn't even thought about this until I actually saw it, and then it just turned into a monster.
This is a good idea. I think that in a funny sort of way, you are finding an effective way to bring together the competition side of fishing and the master angler non-competitive community of fishing. Like, this is a great marriage of efforts, I would say.
Yep.
So
I'm going to throw out one other idea with this.
Oh God.
What if we had other teams we went against?
Let's just start at me and you this year and see how it goes. And then this might turn into an annual thing.
Why does everything got to be a competition with you guys? My gosh.
Well, it would just be a friendly if you had, say, 3 teams, 2 guys per team.
They did that ice fishing. Didn't they do like there's some YouTube series where they
Yeah,
did
that
like
39 hours was 39 straight hours of catching it was the biggest species of each species per team.
Like Jay Siemens did it, and then
it was his
had
group.
their each team. I think
And
Parrot
honestly,
did it.
it's one of the greatest it's one of the greatest competition fishing.
Oh, I watched it on every
things
one
ever.
of their YouTubes, and I've ice fished 3 times in my life.
Well, they didn't do it ice fishing. The one year they did do it ice fishing.
That was the one
They've
that I
done
watched.
open water. Yeah.
Let's just keep it basic this year. It's already complicated as hell.
I want to see this happen, please.
But I think
please
that
do this.
North America is our oyster, and we rely on fellow anglers who are experts in the field on places or fish that we are not experts in. We learn about it. We do Matt Stefan videos every day in the evening, and we do BTL lives in the evening. We get tons of content out of it, and it's at a time of the year when most guys are in a tree stand.
I love
Like it has
down.
wheels. Has wheels.
All right. We got anything else for this show?
We've covered a lot, but this whole idea, and I'm serious about this, if there's a way to get this started, like there is social content on our page.
I'm pretty sure it's already started, Thomas.
Yeah. Well, I just understand how busy your schedules are. I know that you guys also want to stay married. Are you married, Matt?
Not yet.
Not yet. But you're gonna have to get good at this like manage your family thing too.
I've got one that's 100% okay with it. She would probably like tow my boat to the next destination and have a hot meal waiting.
I think that the whole list in a year is gonna be your tallest order. That's gonna be very difficult. And I think you have to know, this is what I'm gonna suggest, have to know when to cut your losses on a species and go to the next one. And at the end of the year, if you're at 75%, that's a pretty awesome accomplishment. And you can kind of work on completing the In-Fisherman Master Angler Grand Slam the following year, or whatever it is you do. But I think you don't overextend yourself by staying too long at a certain place because the fish aren't cooperating.
Definitely.
Know when to move on to the next. Because some of these, the cool thing about this entire program is these are trophy caliber fish. These are serious versions of those species. So I mean, a 20-inch smallmouth. I mean, there's one that's living like 200 yards out of this building on the Mississippi River. But
the problem is also, like, let's say we go out and we got all dialed in for the muskie, and Matt makes a cast with a cow udder or whatever they're called, and boom, 50-inch muskie, 3 casts in. Are we willing to say it's been real and it's been fun and we're on to the next one?
You have to. You have to. You got to bank your time. Bank your time when you can.
Oh, I like it. And then, dude, we have a rough idea of where we're going to stay, and we do meet and greets along the way. Just get hammered on spotted cow every night.
That's the most Wisconsin thing you've ever said.
I don't see any downside to this other than time and money.
Yeah, but what's that? What's time to a pig?
I mean, I fished the Bassmaster Open, so obviously I ain't scared to travel or lose money.
Keeps the home fires burning and the content well, though, and that's important. Content is king.
Are you really in on this, Stefan?
I'm 100% in. 100% in.
We 100%. We need to start it after the U.S. Open. So the dates are October 18th. How many days we got to do October? Let's do October 18th through that Sunday, October 27th.
Oh,
we're gonna have to figure out. Well, you'll have a boat for sure, though, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
It's literally the week after the U.S. Open, unless you need to be home or do something like raise kids, take care of finance. Just
well, I mean, depending on how we work it out, we can talk about this after.
Oh, you could even bring Hank to try to catch like the perch and stuff. Like you can include it's not.
Yeah, we could have 17 people in the boat if we wanted to.
Just spider rigging minnows. Yeah, we'll figure this out after the fact.
Yeah. We're committed now, though. I mean, at this point, we can't back out.
Yeah, I'm 100% in on it because I've never actually submitted a Master Angler Award, and I really want to.
This is a good idea. No, I'm all in on this. So and you need to keep me posted while we're doing this. I would probably hit me up when you're making these submissions so that I can make sure that I'm keeping an eye out for it. Because here's the thing, guys: if you like accidentally mismeasure a fish and I have to reject your application, you're back to the drawing board.
Because we're just going to be doing this for all year, but then like it comes together where we try to knock off all these fish that third week of October. All right.
I'm in. Content value here is through the roof.
Yeah. I'm just saying, yeah, we got to be catch and release because, like, let's say I catch a 23-inch 10-pounder. I'm knocking the sides off that thing if it means a patch.
I mean, so, excuse me. Boy, that caught me off guard. Selective harvest. Let's be responsible here. And listen, this is a good way to get in trouble here in this facility.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
Beer battered muskie is hard to beat. I'm kidding. I'm totally
Northern is much better.
Pickled Northern. Have you ever had pickled pike?
Oh yeah, my dad makes
fantastic.
It nonstop.
Oh my goodness.
We had a lake in Oklahoma, I believe it was called Altus, in western Oklahoma, where they messed around with northern pike stocking. I want to say the 80s, 90s, somewhere around there. And they boomed, like the entire stock, like they
did.
Flourished. And there were like 30 plus, like 28. I think the Oklahoma state record pike's like 28 pounds something. And then once that they didn't breed and they didn't restock. And then once that population cycled out, there's no pike in Oklahoma, and that record will never be broken.
Oklahoma state record northern pike is a 36 pounder.
Yeah. Was it Altus?
Caught by Raymond Fernandez in Lake Carl Etling.
Carl Etling. That was it.
That's a hammer, but you'll love this part. Fernandez caught the fish using a Zebco bait casting reel and 10-pound line at 2:30 in the morning. What was going on then?
It was catfishing or pike fishing.
That is a giant northern pike.
You want a crazy story? Look up the pike fishing in that lake. Like it boomed, big trophy pike, and then once they died, they were gone. And that is like the most unbeatable record in all of bass fishing.
That's a good story.
Fishing. Yeah.
How long ago was that? What was that year? 1976. Whew. Boy, that would be a great story. That would be a great story.
I can't believe they didn't reproduce.
Or maybe the lake went dry. I've looked into it or something. Maybe the lake went dry or something like that. But it was just not viable.
As prolific as pike are in the north, I think they need to have. I've heard of muskies and pike being stocked elsewhere, and they're not able to reproduce. I think they got to have cold water, and I'm sure there's cold water there, but is it cold long enough at the right time of year?
Yeah.
So
you can't back out now.
Can't back out. Yeah, you're too far into this. This is live radio, so you're
locked in.
All right, Matt, Stefan, thanks for jumping on. I told you 15 minutes. It's been 2 hours and 15 minutes. Thomas Allen, we didn't even get to the cool stuff. I want to get you back on to talk about the podcast project that you're working on right now. You're running In-Fisherman storyline episodes, but dropping some really, really cool stuff that you kind of alluded to at the beginning of the show in 2025, like a 30-parter, I believe you said.
50-parter. Our 50th anniversary is in 2025.
For the 50th anniversary. So when that is like dialed in and the release, I'd like to get you back on. And then obviously you'll be back on around that time frame because we're going to be checking in on this Master Angler Award stuff.
I'm going to be watching. Remember, I got my button on the approve or decline button with the Master Angler.
And then also BTL listeners too. Put in that comments when you submit it. This is for the BTL. We're heard about this on BTL, and then we can do the names and then shoot, tag Matt and In-Fisherman and myself.
We also do just a little side note. We do a Master Angler Monday on social media. I'd say probably 3 times a month where we'll feature a a master angler submission that was approved, and you might show up on the In-Fisherman social channels. So
we got a lot of planning to do, because like these is one of those things that sounds good in theory, but we have to wade through the BS and make it happen.
This is a good idea. It'll be fun.
Putting it on your schedule already, Stefan?
No, I'm texting Thomas for sending him my address so I can get one of them sweet hats.
Dude, they are sweet.
I'll get one put in the mail.
Hat. All right. That was awesome.
That was great fun.
All right, I'm gonna let you go, Matt.
See you guys. Thanks for having me on. Good work with In-Fisherman. Keep it up.
Thanks, Matt.
Thomas, that took several unexpected twists and turns, but all positive.
Totally fun. That's what we wanted, was a positive show, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. So, yeah, keep me posted on this master angler thing. It's a brilliant idea.
All right, we'll see you. Take care.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, guys, this has been another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live. Tomorrow, Frank Scalish got an email from a listener. He said, hey, a lot of the lakes are coming up right now this time of the year. I can't find anything on day 4 where you talk about how to fish a lake that has rapidly rising water. He said we're going to talk about that. We're also going to unveil the newest color of the 600 Frank Scalish Signature Series. Big shout out to Thomas Allard from In-Fisherman, Matt Stefan, BPT Pro. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow. See ya.